Of course, it would start with an opening of a bottle.
But what else? What else?
Well, I don't really blame him because there will be feels ahead.
Hello, welcome back to the Run. My name is Beast, and today we're back with Grisaia. This is a new one I've never had, actually. Schloss Gutenberg Erdbeere. Strawberry wine.
Okay.
It's like... I still prefer the cherry one, but they didn't have the cherry one. So alas, I had to settle for that. Anyways, let's just not faff about for too long and get into this. A personality starts off as something like a cube. When we're young, we clumsily bump our corners against other people in the form of childish conflicts. Eventually, our sharp edges are worn away to leave something more like a sphere. That's more or less what people are describing when they say someone's softened. Moderate collisions with others helps us mature, but when those first impacts are too strong, they can have a different effect. Instead of losing our corners little by little, we splinter in strange, harsh ways, warping into crooked shapes. Once crooked, it's hard to become a sphere. Even as the people around them mellow, their sharpness only grows harsher, and everyone who approach ends up getting hurt. But even the most warped human beings start off the same shape as everyone else. Sometimes they look back on the past and grieve. Sometimes they wonder if it's too late to reshape themselves. And because they know that's an empty dream, they grieve once again. Sakaki Yumiko is one of many such sad, distorted objects. Rain, which I had taken for a passing shower, continued long after the thunder passed away. Damn, when's the funeral? By the time we leave our cover in the lingering drizzle, the sun's already set. In a change from the usual routine, I hurried down the road home with an arm wrapped around Sakaki, who stumbles along unsteadily at my side. Unfortunately, the rain's very weak by now, but the constant dampness has left her body noticeably chilled. At the moment, her emotional state is a bit of a concern as well. I lean closely over Sakaki as we walk, sheltering her from the rain as best as I can. That relatively brief journey back to the dorm feels awfully long right now.
あ、帰ってきた。どうしたの？ずいぶん遅かったじゃん。榊さんどうしたの？何か怪我とかしたとか？
Amina yelps in surprise the instant she lays eyes on us. Was it that much of a shock to see me holding Sakaki by the shoulder? Well, considering the girl's normal personality, I suppose it's only reasonable to jump straight to assuming something's physically wrong with her. We got caught in that downpour, that's all. We sheltered from the rain for a while.
それで雨に濡れちゃったのね。榊さん大丈夫？ごめんなさい。心配をかけたわね。
Her physical condition aside, Sakaki seems badly drained in spirit. That characteristic weakness from before is still plainly evident in her tone of voice.
体冷えたでしょ？何か温かいものでも飲む？用意するけど。ありがとう。それじゃあ、お言葉に甘えていただくわ。了解。4時は榊さんを部屋まで連れて行って、後で持っていくから。
Appreciate it.
いいわよ、これぐらい。それよりほら、早く。
Making a note. Once I'm old and grey, I'm gonna write Amina as like a mother to us all in my memoirs.
お礼のつもりだったら、吹き込むような表記はマジ勘弁して。
As soon as I got Sakaki to her room, she collapsed into her bed. Normally she would have ejected me to change out of her wet clothes, but she's currently lacking the energy and willpower to
よ
bother.
ほど疲れてたのね。もう寝ちゃったわよ、榊さん。
Yeah. The hot orange and honey drink Amina provided seemed to calm Sakaki down. It didn't take long at all for her to nod off. I think she's got a slight fever as well. We were out in the rain and
み
all.
たいね。ちょっと暑いかな。
There's a comedy about Havel the Rock playing Dark Souls 2.
I think Dark Souls 2 is a brighter plot than some of the things these folks have seen.
It's also a worse plot, though.
Well, I think that's kind of up for some modest debate, but oh well. Never mind. Praise the sun!
Lady holding her hand to Skaki's forehead, Amina nods in agreement. So Skaki doesn't seem to be in any real discomfort, but I can tell that she's breathing lightly, a little roughly. In any case, thanks for the help, Amina. I'm going to keep an eye on her for a little longer, but you can go ahead and you can head back to your room. Amina's response seems oddly hesitant. What's wrong?
ねえ、ユージ。
Yeah?
さ、分かってるとは思うけど、やっちゃダメだからね。
The hell!
だからさ、二人っきりじゃん？看病してるわけじゃない？そしたらなんかこう、ついでにしちゃったら大変だし、その、風邪うつっちゃったら大変かなって。
My face falls into my palm. For some reason I find myself recalling a gag brain graph website Sachi showed me once. Just by entering someone's name, you get a brain-shaped pie chart breaking down the composition of their thoughts. I didn't think to try Amina at the time, but I think hers would be divided in half right down the middle. One side would be folksy grandma wisdom, the other, as should probably go without saying, would be branded with the word sex. I think I'm gonna start making babies like a rabbit the moment someone leaves me in a cage with a female. Does this scenario play out frequently inside that filthy mind of yours?
だから大事に至らないように釘刺しておこうっていうことよ。わかるでしょ、そういうの。
Still not entirely clear to me what I'm so worried about, but I find it extremely unpleasant to have such aspirations cast in my character. Well, it's not a bad idea, come to think of it.
何がよ。
I've heard that a slight fever can actually make for a more enjoyable experience in some respects. Alright then, might as well put that to the test. It's not like you could catch a fever intentionally, and I'll admit I'm curious. I'm sure Skaki will understand a little experimentation like this can only enrich your life right now, right? She might end up thanking me for expanding her horizons. The thought hadn't even occurred to me, but thanks to a tip from my sexually savvy friend Amine, a new world of possibility awaits. Life is always overflowing with chances to explore the wonders of the unknown. I'm deeply impressed by your ability to keep that in mind, even at a time like this. Thank you, Amine. Amine? Amine stares back at me with blank eyes of a broken electronic toy. Smiling brightly, I give her a friendly thumbs up on the shoulder. Friendly thump on the shoulder. It was a joke.
当たり前じゃん、コンボケ。
Amine's karate chop lands a critical hit smack in the middle of my weary head. From outside, an owl hoots in mournful commiseration.
私そろそろ戻るけどさ、本当にダメだからね。そっとしとかないと。
I said understand, didn't I? Come on, get lost already.
信用ならね。
Amina back slowly out of the room, staring at me reproachfully all the while. I was only teasing her a little in retaliation for slandering me. But it seems I've ended up deepening her unfounded suspicions. Probably best to consider the possibility she might try some half-assed wiretapping outside the door. Shaking my head, I return to Skaki's side, not striking my head.
That happened beforehand.
Anyways, her breaths become regular. Her breaths coming regularly, a little more quietly than before. Doesn't seem to have noticed the commotion in the slightest. Well, it's definitely for the best. Borrowing the chair from Skaki's desk, I ease myself down and look her over at close range. Come think of it, it's the first time I've seen her sleeping. The girl really does have a pretty face. She's constantly forcing it into a scowl, so it's easy not to notice at times. But Skaki Yumiko is definitely what you'd call a beauty. Right now, that face is relaxed, her eyes shut, her cheeks lightly flushed. Skaki looks very calm and peaceful at the moment, but much of her life has been an emotional roller coaster of loneliness, hope, and anger. Now that I know the whole story, your usual prickly attitude is all too understandable. Master, is alright? I'll protect you. I lightly reached down to put my hand on her forehead, currently covered in a damp towel. The moisture against my palm is slightly warm from the heat of a fever. Early next morning, I'm stretching in preparation for my usual running when I hear quiet footsteps on the stairs. Familiar look of mild surprise. However, where Skaki's expression would normally shift to a frown, today it changes to something hesitant and uncertain. What's the matter? Your face is red. Still carrying that fever around?
失礼ね。熱ならもうとうの昔に収まったわよ。収まったわ
Yes,
よ。
I'm sure.
あなたのおかげで。
Oh. How uncouth.
Yeah, being grateful.
How out of character.
That's Liz.
Good to hear.
昨日は、いろいろとありがとう。
Didn't do anything worth being thanked for.
したわよ。護衛の依頼のはずなのに、あんなことを一方的に話したりして。
You asked for my permission before you started talking, and I agreed to listen. There's nothing wrong with that.
そう。
Notice Skaki tends to grow more oddly sullen when the topic of my job comes up, but today she seems downright docile. The girl does look healthy enough. Still, it's entirely possible yesterday's events left some lingering psychological effects. Skaki,
何かしら。
as long as your request is in place, I'll protect you. Rest assured, that's all. Finishing my leg stretches, I stand up and check the clock. About time for me to be heading out. I'm gonna be running for a while, unless you need anything. Alright then, see you this afternoon. Seeing Skaki's eyes following me from behind, I leave the dorm. I don't have much to offer Skaki right now. Simple promises, the best I can do. Hopefully that's enough to provide some reassurance. The past can't be taken back no matter how hard you try. That's a lesson I myself learned all too well. Hold Maurice just to value her present. Hopefully that's just given up, but fortunately the threats approaching Skaki have gone quiet for the moment. If this pattern continues, it shouldn't be hard for me to keep my promise. Would you look at that? A few days later, and an echo of Skaki's past, the hopeful present abruptly takes a sharp turn for the worse. Well, Skaki, can you keep running?
大丈夫。
So she says, but it's obvious at a glance that the girl's close to her limit. Harsh gasps of air interrupt the feeble words coming out of her mouth. She caught me napping. Seemingly taking my words of regret as their cue, a number of men swiftly surround us. Checking Skaki behind my back, I confront a semicircle of attackers. Such scene has certainly been common enough over the last month. But this time our position is in an entirely different league. Was this what they were aiming for all along? They stopped the car above the riverbank and came down on us suddenly. Up until that point, it was the same as usual. But as my master once told me, relying on precedent is a dangerous game. Always think outside the range of your predictions. A lesson, it seems, I didn't learn nearly well enough. As I readied myself for another simple one-by-one attack, the first three men out of the car charged at me simultaneously. Whoop! Caught by surprise, I faltered for just a moment. They seized their chance and executed a beautifully coordinated attack. The first two moved to grab my arms and legs, while the trailing man came straight at me to deliver the disabling blow. The fight would have been over in seconds if I'd misjudged the attacks from the left and right even slightly. Stooping down to avoid their grasping arms, I kicked the first man's ankle and chopped my hand into the second man's liver. Since when do they attack at... I didn't even have time to catch my breath before the third man's fist came down on me from above. Sheer reflex got my elbow up in time to block the punch, but his attacks continued in an unrelenting stream. That hurts, asshole! This guy had some impressive back muscles, and he knew how to use them. His tightly clenched fist swung down to my head with the force of two massive hammers. A single direct hit would have given me a concussion at the very least, and a knockout seemed a real possibility. With a sharp battle cry, I slipped by the hammer man's side and drove my heel into his knee. Hammer stopped in his tracks. As I reflexively reached down for his right leg, I followed with a second kick, this time to the head. Someone managed to bring down the first wave of attacks, but the dramatic change in their tactics was alarming. I feel my heart thudding frantically in my chest. If I try that with a bigger team, it's gonna get ugly. My instinctive response was to run for it with Sakaki in tow. Unfortunately, our enemies clearly anticipated that. Where they used to have their entire force charged down from the car, this time they've set up a second team further along the bank to cut off our retreat. Can't let them all attack at once or it's game over. Carefully size up the group of men surrounding us. One thing's immediately clear, there's not gonna be an easy way out this time. This is Sakaki. I'm going for a preemptive strike. Once I open a gap in their perimeter, make a run for it. I'll keep them off your back. There's no time to debate this, let's go. Breathe and break into a sprint, heading for a point where 3 of the 5 men surrounding us can easily move to intercept. As expected, they instantly launch a simultaneous attack, aiming to trap me in a pincer. There we go! I dodge, grasping arms from the right and left and right at the very last possible moment, slipping forward to leave 2 of the men charging directly at each other. A pair of dark-suited men jerk to an unsteady halt like a pair of outfielders chasing the same fly ball. See, the moment I grab them by the legs and flip them off their feet. The 2 men hit the ground head first with a satisfying pair of thunks. Before I can even confirm they're staying down, their buddy's got a sleeper chokehold on me from behind. But I'd seen this coming from the moment he started circling around behind me. I bend back into the hold and then strain my abdominal muscles and swing my body sharply forward. Tossed over my shoulder in a throw you might see in a judo competition, the man flies a good 2 meters forward before landing face first in the dirt. That's 3 taken care of. All I need to do is keep the 2 coming from behind occupied long enough for Sakaki to get clear. Alright, now run, Sakaki! Hurry! Still shooting reluctant glances in my direction, Sakaki begins to run along the riverbank. The other 2 attackers quickly try to slip past me and pursue her. Not happening! As the pair splits apart to either side, I hurl a stone tied to a heavy string toward the feet of the faster runner. Tripped up at the cord, the man turns a somersault in the air and lands awkwardly on the ground, one arm crunching loudly underneath him. Even as I'm confirming that he's down, I've begun to grapple with his partner. The moment we come to grips, it's clear to me that I've left the most troublesome one of the bunch for last. Zeke didn't particularly stand out in this group, but he's got dense muscles and an excellently balanced body. This is exactly his sort of fight. I was hoping to take him down smoothly and catch up with Sakaki, but I guess that's not happening. You can only pray Sakaki manages to get out of here on her own. Sound, except for his intermittent breathing, the man moves his body back and forth in a variety of ways, probing for a gap in my defenses. It's a far cry from the frantic wriggling of an amateur. Every moment has meaning. Can't let down my guard for even a moment. Please get out of here. Keeping half an eye on Sakaki, I deliberately hold him in check, just as he's finally reached the foot of the slope. Distracted by the fight behind us, Sakaki stumbles over a heavy patch of undergrowth and falls to the ground. Sakaki! For a split second, her scream distracts me.
Well,
Dizzying the intense
that
pain
might not
shoots
be
through
good.
my left arm. He got me. I feel the skin of my arm rattling,
Ow.
growing hot as if suddenly plunged into a tub of boiling water. Small glinting silver knife sticks straight out of my forearm like some absurd work of modern art. My grip on the man weakens against my will. In an instant, he broken free of the grapple. Corners of the mouth curl up in something vaguely resembling a smile as he turns his attention to Sakaki. Sakaki scrambles frantically across the ground, her face distorted with terror. As if savoring the moment, the band begins to lope towards her at a relaxed pace. His first moment of carelessness. Won't let shit! With one sharp yank, I tear the knife out of my arm, then hurl it at the man's ankle. The man collapses onto the ground and reaches down for his wounded leg. Before he can get his hands around the knife, I straddle him and smash a fist into his solar plexus. Gastric juices spraying from his mouth, the man loses consciousness. I can feel blood flowing rapidly out of my body. Abruptly released from the tension of the fight, exhausted and bleeding, I look up to find the world swaying before my eyes. Sakaki rises to her feet and runs over. Staying wide-eyed with the blood streaming down my arm, she presses her hands to her mouth, speechless with horror. I don't know why, but I like to imagine that usually she just pulls the knife out of the dude's leg, just sticks it back into his arm. Better.
Really ought not to have removed it from his arm, but Time was of the essence.
Yes, like in the situation, he did the correct thing, but immediately
Yeah.
afterwards, just grab the knife and slide it back in to stop the bleeding, at least a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, we'll
F1
apply a
man.
tourniquet of some description.
Fine, you know you gotta hurry, Sakaki. Hurry.
こんなあなた
It'll be fine. It'll be all right once I stop the bleeding. Get moving. There might be more where those guys came from. Completely ignoring my repeated instructions to run, Skaki reaches into her breast pocket, takes out a handkerchief, and holds it to my wound. Pure white piece of cloth has quickly dyed bright red.
何血が
Her anguished expression distorts still further. We've heard people say women are a little less queasy around blood because of their regular menstrual cycle, but I doubt that makes an injury like this any less surreal and terrifying.
どこを止血すればいいの私も詳しくないから教えて
I'm telling you it's fine right now. You need to...
あなた一人残せるわけがないでしょ早く
Skaki's face is filled with uncharacteristically raw and obvious emotion. But then again, lately I've seen quite a few human expressions starting to leak from behind that different look of front of hers. In any case, there's no point letting this circular argument drag on forever. Just wasting time at this point. Fine, tied tightly just under the elbow.
ええ
Sorry about the handkerchief. Just give her the wound itself for now. There should be a bandage. There should be bandages in my bag. Can you wrap one over the
Send
entire
him the
area?
bill.
分かったわ
Appreciate it. With my guidance, Gaga performs a rudimentary first aid. Soon I'm back on my feet. The blood loss has left me more than a little lightheaded, but we nonetheless hurry along the road home as quickly as possible. After all, there's no telling what else those people might have planned. The old rules clearly no longer apply. Skaki hasn't spoken a word, most likely out of concern for me. It's painfully obvious she's worried, but that only makes this feel even worse. Pathetic. What kind of a bodyguard makes the client worry about him? For the moment, I've got to get us back to safe ground and plan some immediate countermeasures. Tactics have changed on a fundamental level. Can't get away with the usual routine anymore. Across from the road, red glow of the setting sun, a flock of black rain clouds push threateningly into the sky as if to reinforce the looming threat. Looks like it's gonna be another rainy night.
そうか。傷は負わせることに成功したんだな。次は確実に仕留めろ。ああ、やむを得ん状況ならば殺しても構わん。由美子が暴れるようなら無理にでも車に押し込めて連れてこい。邪魔はさせん。私は私のやりたいようにやるのだ。私の言うことを聞け。由美子。
おかえちょっと
Understandably, it doesn't take long for Amina to notice something's wrong. Practically the moment we're inside the dorm, her shocked voice attracts the attention of everyone lounging around the lobby. As they run up, the blood seems to drain from their faces.
これどうしたのよさお兄ちゃん包帯が真っ赤です血で何事故とかそれとも何かあったのねえ
Usually just knife. Just gets out the word knife, face plants. Blood loss has finally got them.
All of a sudden, wasted across the screen.
Freaking he just spawns back at the hospital. This is a first. Lazy summer evening quickly gives way to a borderline panic.
とりあえず病院へ連絡した方がいいそれとも連れて行こうか
There are some complicated circumstances. I prefer not to make too much of a scene. The treatment here should be enough. Sachi!
はい
Sorry, but can you help me out?
はいわかりました今すぐ私も手伝うわお湯とか沸かせばいいんだっけみちる様お子さんを産むわけではありません
Oh, no,
でも
warm
清
water's
潔
no
な
bad
行為と
idea.
かそういうのは必要です
It is, like, at least a little bit disinfecting.
Yeah.
Just, I doubt disinfecting enough for stab wound, London
Yeah.
wound.
オッケ
Okay.
Hope Yuji has his license for being stabbed.
Please, round here you don't need one of those.
He probably has a stabbing license now.
Yeah, License to Kill.
License to Kill, yeah.
It's a really shit version of Bond.
I got me stubborn license right here by the Queen.
By Jove.
It's a fucking classic,
What are
that
you on
video.
about?
A bit sad, isn't it?
It's a bit sad, in it, yeah.
Sachi and Michiu noisily dash back to their respective rooms. Guess I'll head to my room for the moment. Snow break.
Snowbreak. Undead Berserker. Yep.
That anime man.
A classic.
Skaki, would you help me over there?
ええ、もちろんよ。
Appreciate it.
部屋に行って詳しい話を聞くしかなさそうね。妙な匂いがプンプンなのよさ。
A few minutes after Kaki helped me into bed, Sachi treats my wound with the skill of an experienced nurse. It's no worse than what I would have gotten at the hospital. Our maid's fierce capabilities in this field are worthy of further examinations, but for the moment, explaining the situation to the uneasy classmates gathered around me has to come first.
なんかとんでもない話になってきたわね。
I'm in response to my brief summary with those words and a worried sigh. Everyone had some idea that Skaki had been coming under attack, but a knife coming into play seems to have left them more than a little disturbed.
ユミちゃんに何もなかったのは幸いだったのよさ。さすがは風見さんです。とはいえ、傷は心配ですが。
Don't need to worry about me. Their change in strategy just caught me by surprise today. Won't slip up like that next time.
そうなの？ユミコもユージも大丈夫って思っていいのよね。
Won't slip up next time as he pulls a fucking handgun out from under the bed. They're not even gonna get close enough to stab me next time.
There won't be a next time.
I don't know why I did the motion of cocking a gun when I literally have a fucking gun over here that I can cock.
Hawk?
Oh yeah, there's also my fucking like AR. This is
Why
so
would you
cursed.
saw the barrel off of a rifle?
That doesn't
Like,
improve the power.
I know it is literally just a fucking broken airsoft, but it's still like, if you look at it from the side, it looks like someone had a regular AR, but decided to saw off the fucking tip because he wanted to saw it off AR.
No, it doesn't make any sense to me either. Unless, of course, there's a
Me-
thought. Bud, are there AR-style shotguns out there?
Well, yeah.
Actually,
There's got to be.
hold on, I feel the
thought
need
there
to look up a sawed-off AR now. So...
Hey, Cactus, this is going to be part of the thumbnail.
Yep. Just
Sawed
uh,
off
doing felonies.
assault rifle. It exists.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it does exist, but I can't think of any practical reason for it.
Practical
Except
uses for it,
maybe
yeah.
just weight reduction. I mean,
And of course, one of them is a fucking Fortnite weapon concept. Dual sawed-off assault rifles. Crave death.
My word.
I guess this is the closest we'll get to what it likely would look like.
and I'm sure sawed-off rifles have some uses since it's been done. Most of the time, you just saw a shotgun instead. That makes more sense.
Yeah, I may have also Googled AR style shotgun, and hopefully I haven't put myself on a watch list in the process. But nevertheless, getting some good answers.
Buddy,
here.
I've googled way worse.
They-
That's
Googled
true.
way worse because of random fucking thoughts I had on recording that I felt that I had to need to, like, how the fuck is that handled? Like, one example being, like, if you, like, is it incest if, like, your mother and father divorce, your mother gets custody, your father remarries to someone that is already a child? Is it incest if you then get into a relationship with that child because, like, your father doesn't have custody, your mother has. Your father's the one that remarried. So She does not share
That
the
is
same
such.
family tree, technically. So is that incest or is that not incest? And the fucking Google searches I made in order to find out how the fuck that works are on the internet now.
Such an oddly specific, almost frightening.
Yeah, I kind of got a bit of an
Line.
aneurysm trying to understand that.
Yeah, you want to fucking guess what game I played for that question to come to mind?
No.
It
No, I
wasn't
don't want to.
Kakenuke, was it?
No, Gini no Haruka.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes, that's right.
One of the few VNs where the main character's parents are divorced and we get to interact with both parents. Yeah, of course. It's a lie, an attempt to reassure them, nothing more. The ex-military man who knifed me today was a seriously tough opponent. The others were no slouches either. Even under ideal circumstances, it would have been a tough fight. Their failure this time is only going to encourage them to double down on the tough tactics. And while they can bring in fresh bodies, my cuts and bruises are going to start slowing me down eventually. You start devising countermeasures sooner rather than later. Skaki's been very quiet for a while now. Her face is downcast. Sounds like she's the one who stabbed me, but since she's been known to try on occasion, it's probably not better not to joke about that. Sorry, but I'm feeling a little tired. I think you can let me sleep for a while.
そっか、了解。じゃあ私らは退散するわね。
I'm gonna fucking set myself to offline again. They're happening too frequently again. Even Amina doesn't seem eager to throw the usual banter around. Understandable under the circumstances. Skaki, I'm sure today was a little nerve-wracking for you. Being alone might be frightening right now, so why don't you sleep over in someone else's room? Sorry, Sachi, would you mind?
はい、わかりました。榊さん、行きましょう。わかったわ。
Aw.
Let me know immediately if you
Girl
notice anything
fight.
suspicious. They haven't tried anything on school grounds so far, but there's no telling what comes next.
はい、了解で。
Kaki barely said a word right up until the moment Sachi hustled her out of the room. That weighs on my mind a little, but even as I try to think it over, I feel myself sinking slowly into unconsciousness. As I sleep, I dream of Sakaki. I see her as a young girl standing very still in absolute darkness, sobbing endlessly. When I approach, her appearance changes to the young woman I know, but the tears don't stop flowing down her face. No matter what I say to her, Sakaki stands oblivious in the darkness, crying bitter tears. Sakaki. When I wake up, I notice an odd sensation developing in my left hand. The darkened room is silent, but I sense someone's presence nearby. It's almost like a continuation of the dream, but when I move my eyes to the side, the truth becomes clear. Sakaki. She was Sachi ushered her out of the room. I should be sleeping by now. Instead, she's sitting at my
ご
side.
めんなさい。起こしてしまったかしら。
Alright, got some sleep. Have you been sitting here all this time? She answers with a quiet nod.
どうしても心配だったから。小峰さんの部屋に着いてすぐ戻ってきてしまったの。
Aye.
ずっと握っててごめんなさい。
Strange warmth surrounding my left wrist was coming from Sakaki's hands. Only mind.
そう。
Sakaki's downturned eyes briefly steal a glance at my face. A little bloodshot, I can see a hint of red in her cheeks. Seems that dream just now might have been accurate in a way.
本当にごめんなさい。
Stroke of my hand a little, she speaks in a sincerely apologetic tone. Nothing worry yourself over. When you're on guard duty, that sort of thing is always a possibility. Let's just be thankful no one ended up in the hospital.
でも
From the look on her face, I can tell Skaki isn't remotely convinced by this line of argument. Look, it's nothing you need to feel guilty about. I accept your requests. I'll put my body on the line when necessary. Even if I get a little banged up, as long as you're safe, that's a success.
成功なわけないでしょ。何を言ってるの。
All of a sudden, her quiet voice grows rough and quavering.
言ってるのよ。本当に。こんな気がし。成功なんて。
Seems I chose my words somewhat poorly. Skaki's reached the end of her endurance. Tears, clearly not the first she's shed tonight, fall onto my bandaged hand. Skaki.
いだからあなたに情けない姿ばかりを。
Quiet crying begins to grow in intensity. Grasping my palm tightly, Skaki heaves with sobs like a frightened child, teardrops raining from her face. Her voice echoes loudly outside the otherwise hushed room. From the outside window I can hear the faint sound of water cutting through the air. Come to think of it, the forecast today called for a rain a little after midnight. Exactly the sort of dark, ugly rain Skaki hates so much.
怖いのよ。怖くて仕方ないの。
After a few minutes of wordless crying, those words slip out of her mouth. Of what?
私のために周囲の人がこんな目に遭うのが本当に怖くて嫌で仕方ないのよ。このままだと風見くんも寮の子たちだって私のせいで嫌な目に遭わせてしまうかもしれない。
Skaki squeezes down tighter and tighter. A tear lands on top of her rigid, trembling hands, then another.
もうあんなことが本当に。
Losing her mother, betrayed by her father, and denied even the chance to make friends, she was pushed into a mock school built as a gilded cage. On an emotional level, it's not surprising that Skaki finds this latest breakdown deeply painful. But that's also exactly why I want to do something for her. The job isn't easy under these circumstances, but if we can give her some peace of mind, I honestly don't mind taking a few wounds like this. Looking about Skaki's miserable face, I find myself regretting that I didn't manage to pass it off as a lighter
あな
injury.
たを風見くんをこれ以上苦しめるわけにはいかない。
Don't worry about me, I can still do my job even if...
分かってよ。私あなたのことを本当に心配しているのよ。
The voice is
Trying to play
desperate.
it off as the Black Knight is not a good idea.
Poor-
Tis but a scratch.
Tis but a scratch. A scratch your bloody arms off!
On a draw then.
Go and come over there and bite your ankles.
I remember the last time I felt such powerful hatred for my own incompetence. Complete silence settles over the room. Skaki's eyes don't leave mine. With a sorrowful expression on her face, she opens her mouth and speaks sorrowful words.
あなたを解雇します。
Yumiko just like, I'm dismissing you. He just lies in bed, just fucking still injured. That ain't your decision, bitch! You can try to get rid of me, but you're not gonna fucking succeed! What was that? For a moment I wonder if I'm beside. But she doesn't hesitate to confirm my
依頼
fears.
だからなのよね。私を守ってくれるのは。だからあなたを解雇します。
What are you saying? You saw those people today. Without me around next time, they'll
構わ
definitely...
ないわ。それであなたや寮のみんなが無事なら。
I don't know why, but all I can think of is just like, I will immediately say, but the thing I'm about to say is not what happens in the anime, so don't worry, it's not spoilers. This is just like a scenario that I think would be funny if it happened. Next time...
He thinks it would be funny.
Yeah, next time she just goes out without him because like he, on the surface accepted that he's gonna leave her alone now. The men in black just show up, start surrounding her. Suddenly, just one of them drop dead after another because usually she's just like, all right, she's gonna be like this. I'm just gonna fucking snipe those people.
True enough.
To be certain, although they attacked me today, their target is Skaki alone. If we leave her aside, the main threat disappears. Those dangerous goons will probably decrease in numbers, maybe even disappear altogether. But of course, that's simply because they'll be able to accomplish their objective without even without the muscle. I swore I'd protect Skaki. After making a promise like that, I can't accept a request to abandon her. Sorry, but you're still in danger. I'm not willing to shrug my shoulders and walk away. I refuse to resign.
ダメよ。強制的にでも破棄するわ。
Do you know what you're saying here? These people ain't playing around anymore. You're going
分か
to
ってちょうだい。
listen to me,
分
Skaki.
かってお願いだから。お願いだから分かってよ。
Skaki's expression tells me the story. This isn't something she just said on the spur of the moment. It was a painful decision made after a long thought. The tracks her tears have left on her face, the tightly clenched hand that anguished in a debate has left its mark on her. Just because I understand the depth of her resolve doesn't mean I can accept this. It's painfully frustrating to know my sloppiness drove her to such an agonizing decision. Alright, I accept your dismissal. Skaki isn't going to budge no matter what I say. For the moment, there's no other way to give her relief. The instant I speak those words, the tension drains out of her hands.
ごめんなさい。私。
It's as if a heavy weight has fallen from her shoulders, as if she's lost something precious. A hollow excuse for a smile on her face. Skaki continues to apologize to me. Then, like, the next day, she's like expecting the attack to happen, but nothing happens. Suddenly she just sees a message on her phone. Hey, what the fuck's happening at the station? She just like sees the picture someone sent her, and it's literally just like her dad just like beaten to a fucking pulp and stripped down to his undies, hanging from like a fucking pole near the station with a sign on his chest that just reads, "I sent kidnappers after my own daughter."
Weird how that works out.
I didn't guard your body. I'm still resigned. I didn't break the contract.
just the high table coming around. Just full on Night Lord.
Don't apologize, you're not in the wrong. The sound of the rain outside gradually grows louder. Harsh pattering fills the dark room, cut off even from the light of the moon. As of this day, my employment with Skaki Yumiko came to an end in the form of a dismissal. Things are no better than they were at the beginning. No one's been saved. It's the emptiest of all possible conclusions. My contract with Skaki is at an end. I'm no longer obligated to guard her. Our classmates were uniformly surprised by the news, but they haven't pestered Skaki about the reasons. I think they've more or less figured out why she made that painful decision. Makino, you ready to go? I'm gonna have a shopping list too, didn't she? Don't forget it or things might get scary later. Tally-ho, Spriggans!
Tally-ho!
Okay, kids, you're just off character now. Don't tally-ho me. Makina? Feet pattering noisily against the carpet, Makina heads up to Amada's room. On the other side of the lobby, Sachi stooping slightly in the attentive pose of an old-time newspaper reporter, jotting down Skaki's words in a small memo pad.
はい、わかりました。ごめんなさい。あまり外に出るわけにもいかないから。いいんです。遠慮されずに何でもお申し付けください。ありがとう。
But there's no scoop involved. We're going out for a shopping trip, so Sakaki is asking us to pick up a few things, just like Amane.
お待たせなのよさ。あまねからメモもらってきた。じゃあ、風見さん、行きましょうか。
Yeah. As for my younger classmates, I glanced to the far side of the lobby. Skaki's been reading on a sofa on the side of the large windows for a while now. But from the sultry way she's picking through the pages, I think it's safe to say she isn't particularly focused on the story. She glances up from the pages briefly. Our eyes meet from across the room. Skaki looks away and gets to her feet and walks off in the direction of her room.
風見さん
Right, yeah, about time we get going. Since relieving me of my position, Skaki hasn't set foot outside the school walls. As partially because of her own instinct for self-preservation and partially because of me. The girls decided it's no longer possible to actively protect herself against the clear threat posed by those attackers. She dismissed me, so I wouldn't be dragged into a losing battle on her behalf. But even after that, I've continued keeping an eye on her, Skaki, more indirectly than before. Try to keep my distance, but I'm never too far away to respond in case something happens. I think Skaki's faintly aware of that. It's probably part of the reason she's shutting herself up in the dorm instead of going outside and making my life harder. It's not like she's come out and told me any of this, but of course, by considering her behavior until now, it seems like the natural interpretation. Skaki defiantly rejected the life of a bird in a cage, acting like as she pleased in the face of threats. But now she's locked up once again. My determination to protect the girl is part of what's now fencing her in. It's honestly pretty damn frustrating. I mean, the shopping list isn't too huge today, and my young classmates only need a few things themselves, all of which we find easily enough. I'd say the total time invested on this trip turns out to be fairly sizable.
ユミちゃんのオーダーは細かくてめんどっちいのよさ。
Scott's shopping list reflects a personality. It's neatly and methodically written, even naming specific manufacturers and product numbers. And Sachi's insisted we conduct a painstaking hunt for the exact items described, so this final part of the trip is taking longer than the rest combined.
でもここまで細かく言っていただけると買う方としては助かります。
Sachi smiles peacefully, allowing the eco-friendly reusable shopping bags dangling from her hands to sway back and forth. Naturally, she brought enough of those things for all of us. Not that it's anything new, but you're sure on top of things, Sachi.
はい、備えあれば憂いなしと申しますから。すべてにおいて通じる言葉です。
Yeah, true enough. I love that cliche in my workplace too.
避妊用品も常に持ち合わせていれば、と思った際にも慌てずに済みますよね。つまりはそういうことです。
Right. Sure. It's a bit late to lament my role in the rising levels of vulgarity around here, but when a girl comes off as innocence personified, starts talking like this, I can't help feeling a little guilty. But then again, lately I've been starting to think a good part of the problem might lie inside Sachi herself. But as I'm considering the manner, Sachi comes to a halt with a small, surprised sound. She's gazing a little way down the street with a curious expression on her face. What's wrong, Sachi? I turn to follow her gaze. What the hell's that woman doing? A certain blonde has parked herself by the side of the road.
もう遅い。
Mm-hmm.
Ensconced in the driver's seat of her tacky bright yellow sports car, she kicks her bare legs into the air in a tacky display of irritation, turning every male head in the area. She's
And dare I say a few stomachs too.
Probably, yes. She's putting on a big show of waiting for someone, looking down at her watch with a pouty expression of boredom, occasionally even whining to her audience.
いろんなものを持て余してる感じなのよさ。
An accurate evaluation. As I bring a hand to my forehead and sigh heavily, the bare-legged blonde in question turns in our direction.
Hi!
And with a greeting more appropriate for a co-ed hitchhiker stranded in the Utah desert, she favors me with a nauseatingly sweet smile. Alright, let's go. No reason to hang around here all day. Studiously avoiding eye contact, I attempt to play dumb.
何無視ってんのよ。こっちは1時間もこうして待ってたのよ。ガン無視ってことはないでしょ。ねえってば。
Abruptly switching to fluent and idiomatic Japanese you'd never expect from someone with her appearance, JB calls to stop me. I obey, feeling my face settle in an expression of profound frown irritation. What's this? Here I was, thinking the owner of some cheap sex shop decided to announce his grand opening by renting a walking billboard bimbo, but it's just my good friend JB doing her thing. What can I do for you?
これまで功労者として多めに見てきたけど、その暴言はもはや許せないわ。風見裕二。
Look, JB, I'm not particularly criticizing you. I have the greatest respect for your professional capabilities. All I'm saying is, given your age, it might be time to quit this hobby of wandering around town in clueless foreigner mode while dirty old men address you with their eyes. No offense intended.
あんた、絶対に次の移動でアフガンかソマリアに飛ばしてやるから覚悟しときなさいよね。
She just said that while Sachi and Makina are right there.
Yeah.
Yuji's not the one giving away his true profession. JB is.
Yeah. Well, I think by now, they'd be good to guess.
Might be a
Also,
nice
back in the
change of
days when
pace and bring
Somalia,
an employee to
Somalia was
see, it
savable,
really
but
makes her-
Afghanistan was still savable then.
Might be a nice change of pace. I'm currently unemployed, you see. Really makes you realize the importance of having a nice steady job.
は？何言ってるの？あなた今。
Halfway through the sentence, JB bites her tongue. Sachi and Makina are at my side, and we're in the middle of a public street full of random civilians. Not exactly the time or place to discuss my job.
学生なのに無職とは面白いご身分ね。
Well, I suppose not. That's why I'm enjoying a lazy summer vacation instead of polishing my resume.
ねえ、ちょっと話があるんだけど。 これから少し付き合わない？
What, right now?
ええ、すぐに。
Sounds like another troublesome discussion awaits. JB's still got a light-hearted expression on her face, but she spoke those words just now in a familiar deadpan tone of voice. From years of experience, I know it means that this is somehow related to work. Sorry, but would you two mind going back first?
はい、わかりました。
だよ。フレッシュな小娘2人放置プレイでそっちの存在感のない金髪とんのか。お兄ちゃんってそんな熟女好きだったか？
存在感のない金髪。
Holy shit! You didn't need to color like that, Makina.
Yeah, they gunned her down like a
ちなみに
dog.
存在感ある金髪ってのはチルチルのことな。ありゃ忘れようと思っても無理な話やで。
存在感。
Interesting how that part bothers her more than a mature woman crack.
ほら、マキちゃん。風見さん困ってるよ。
わーったよ。お兄ちゃん、ちゃんと老いたせずにまっすぐ帰ってくるのよ。
Never thought Makina would be the one saying that to me. The times truly are changing.
それじゃあ、春寺さん。
Hand of a man in this.
風見さん、先に戻りますね。
Sorry about that. Such probably leaves, dragging a grumbling Makina along with her.
存在感ないかな。結構目立つと思ってたんだけどな。
Despite copious amounts of drink, no.
Don't take kids' crap seriously. Come on, let's get going already. Why is it that all the women in my life, regardless of age and personality, are uniformly managed to give me headaches? Skaki's begun shutting herself up in her room. Obviously, her visits to the riverbank have stopped as well. After a few minutes zipping down the country road in JB's ridiculously flashy car, the two of us take a seat near the otherwise deserted area where the incidents occurred.
そう。やっぱり個人的に護衛を頼まれていたのね。
And I wasn't specifically restricted from accepting, but in any case, it's been over for a few days now. For a moment, I explained the details of my recent unemployment to JB. I expected her to be a little more surprised about Sakage's request and my decision to accept it, but she doesn't even bat an eyelid. Kind of kills my momentum. Suppose JB may have done a little investigation on her own as part of this whole thing with Sakage's father.
ほら、お弁当作ってきたのよ。食べる？
Once I've more or less finished my story, JB pushes a prettily hand-wrapped lunchbox in my direction. Sandwiches, eh? Wise choice, Julia. I suppose even you would be able to make these without turning the kitchen into too much of a disaster zone. Weirdly girlish packaging is also a little painful to look at, but I decided it's best to keep that particular thought to myself.
あのね、ユージ。あれから私だって多少は料理も上達した。って食べる前に一言ぐらい言ってから食べなさいよ。
I did say something. Did you not? Didn't you hear me?
もう。
I do exasperation. I'll apologize if I did something wrong.
もういいわよ。食べながらでいいから、ちょっと話を聞きなさい。
JB retrieves a small notebook from her black file case, her voice shifting to a businesslike tone. As directed, I listen carefully while chewing away at her egg sandwiches.
先日、市ヶ谷の本家で人事異動があったのは知ってるわね。
Yeah, they sent a message around. The chief of staff resigned and they appointed a successor, right?
いつもの勢力争いの結果だけどね。ただ、ちょっと困ったことがあって、後任となった門間陸将補は、国交省と強いパイプを持っている人間で、主に私鉄関連の財界人と深い交流を持っていたの。
ほう。
陸将補は早速こちらに接触してきたわ。異例なのよね。お偉方が就任早々、私たちみたいな下々のことに気をかけるなんて。何か理由がない限り、そんなことはありえない。一体なぜかしらね。
Deliver some instructions about the situation with Sakaki's father, I'd imagine. His speech direct influence over our company. Lacked direct influence over our company. Not if got a way to pressure us. Maybe even give us marching orders.
正解かどうかは私の立場からは言えないわね。ただ陸将補からは 風見雄二には別の塀の中に入ってもらった方がいいのではと笑いながらだったから冗談のつもりなんだろうけど、内心はどう思っているんだか。
This really is a fantastic job despite the crappy salary. First I'm pushed into a mission, now I'm yanked abruptly off it, and in the end I get a nice trip to the doghouse for my trouble. Our employee benefit program is a shining example to the world.
ねえ雄二、ことはもう国レベルの話になってきているの。あなた一人が動いてどうなるような話じゃない。
What are you telling me to do?
学園から去って榊由美子と関係を断ちなさい。そうしないと今度は命令を持ってあなたに相対することになってしまう。
I see. So keeping me off the operation itself isn't enough for them anymore. Now want to keep me away from Sakaki herself. The whole thing has been a headache from the start, and it's clearly only getting worse. However, there's one element of JB's story that's been bothering him for some time. Sakaki's father interfering with public assets on behalf of his private interests is understandable, if legally dubious, but on a more fundamental level, the plot's full of holes. Vague initial orders, lack of support, the artificial abduction attempts, the obvious radical change after Sakaki Yumiko hired me. Through certain hypotheses, these contradictions all begin to make sense. Hey JB, there's one thing I'm gonna ask you.
何よ。
Until now, I assumed Sakaki's father had learned about a threat to his daughter's safety and was taking a variety of measures to protect her.
ええ、そうよ。それが何か。
But considering all the events up until now, the relationship within the Sakaki families, and this odd pressure from the chief of staff, I've started to think that the real threat to Sakaki Yumiko may be her own father. Any thoughts on that hypothesis? That's been in the back of my mind all along. Sakaki Michiaki's objective was simply to protect his daughter, and inducing Ichigaya to take me off the job despite my success would make very little sense. But if the man's goals are exactly the opposite, things start to fall into place. He was probably trying to intimidate his daughter at first. Now was deployed to serve as some sort of prop in that play. The attacker's constant complaints about what they signed up for might have referred to a scripted scenario handed down from their employer. In any case, at the present moment, the identity and goal of Sakaki Yumiko's enemy appears very clear. Her father's the one trying to abduct her. Isn't that right, JB? Face hard expression. JB quietly casts her eyes down. That's more than enough of an answer for me.
私が答えられないと分かっていて聞いているのでしょ。どうせ。
Sorry, Julia.
もう。
JB has her own position to consider. Middle management and my company means dealing with highly confidential matters. Can't even guess how many secrets she's obligated to keep. JB is the very model of an uber-professional German with a deeply ingrained reverence for playing by the rules. Nonetheless, I'm constantly using personal emotions and our shared history with my master to try and pry information out of her. Probably going straight to hell based on my treatment of women alone. Well, not that I have the slightest qualification, but heavens in any other respect. Words about Sakaki. I think I'll be getting back to the dorm now.
本当にいいの？このままで。
Gonna be in danger of continuing interfering with the Sakaki family squabble. From what JB told me about Ichigai's eternal situation, there's a real chance my own people might end up trying to kill me. Sakaki's alone. If I leave, she'll lose what little she has left. What I've learned about Sakaki's past, closing my eyes and abandoning her is no longer an option. The girl spent her whole life profoundly isolated. Now, yet again, a group of self-centered adults have tried to tear her life apart. Though she cut herself off from others as a means of self-defense, somewhere deep down Sakaki is still desperately hoping to be rescued. I don't know if I can save her, but if interference can create a positive change in her life, I'm going to keep interfering. I owe that much to the woman who pulled me free from the same dark swamp Sakaki's trapped in.
ねえ、ユージ。
What?
あなた、ひょっとしてユミコのことが好きなの？
Why is it that women always go straight for the romantic explanation? You're no better than those leering gossips in the dorm.
違うって言い切れる？
Very least, this is not what this is about. Probably something that's closer to sympathy.
同情ね。
JB responds in an ambiguous tone to suggest she's only half convinced.
市ヶ谷を含め監視は厳しくなるわよ。場合によっては国に歯向かうようなことにもなりかねないわ。
Suppose so.
もう一度ちゃんと考えて。
Voice seemed a little lonely at the
あ
end.
なた自身のこともね。
Brightly yellow car, badly out of shape, and the shabby country road roars around the end bend that disappears. The edge of the sky reddens little by little. Clouds begin to gather over her head, suggesting an evening shower to come. She says difficult things sometimes. Turning over her final words in my mind, I slowly begin to walk the road home. The shower turns out to be a full-blown rainstorm, continuing well into the night. My room's filled with the rushing sounds of the rain outside. I sit in bed and listen, completely unable to sleep. Insomnia is not exactly uncommon for me, but today it's not the usual variety. Just can't get that conversation with JB out of my head long enough to nod off. Lucky Yumiko, eh? Honestly, I didn't give her that much thought at first. Our first encounter certainly left a strong impression, but since then she's tended to fade into the background as often as not. For one thing, I've always tried not to get too deeply involved with my classmates, and she's a deeply private person herself. At some point I recognized we were pretty similar in that regard. Little by little I developed something of an interest in her. Right now she's weighing my mind more heavily than anything else. Sitting up in my bed, I pushed the curtains open and look outside. It's coming down even harder than I'd expected. Staring at the drops of water bouncing off my window, I feel my thoughts suddenly lurch inward. Something almost like nausea wells up inside me. From the bottom of my throat, the depths of my mind, some ugly pushes its way to the surface. Think about myself. Those were JB's instructions from that afternoon, weren't they? Funny thing to ask of a pet dog. Between rough breaths, a few self-deprecating words spill out of my mouth. I'm a dog, raised and trained on taxpayer money to accomplish certain jobs. They allow me the barest pretense of humanity, but that privilege is conditional on my absolute loyalty and success. Now I'm on the verge of ignoring orders outright, closing Ichigai up for the sake of one woman. Is it alright to betray your country to help a single person? The master never taught me the answer to that one. What do you want me to do? What do you want to do? A girl whose mother disappeared into deep fog. A woman betrayed by her father. A human being who lost sight of herself, consumed by a sense of meaninglessness. Staring at my faint reflection in the window, I asked Sakaki Yumiko a question. I know there's no answer waiting for me. Even Sakaki probably doesn't have one. At this rate, she won't have the luxury of indecision for much longer. The drumbeat of the rain against my window finally dies down. In the silence, the darkness outside seems to grow thicker and more menacing. Resting both hands on the window, I continue to ask the night questions about how it answers. It feels like dawn may never come. And the next morning, we're blessed with such pleasant weather that it's hard to believe that storm passed us by only hours ago.
Such a rabid optimist.
Even though Sakaki gives no sign of leaving her room, it's just about the time when she'd usually be heading out for the riverbank, but she doesn't even appear in the lobby. Her shoes sit untouched in the cabinet, slowly gathering dust. In only a few days, that simple daily routine has vanished, leaving nothing but a void behind. And yet again, I have nothing to do but stand around, engaging in silent soliloquies. Michio and Namin eventually invited me on a shopping trip. Probably found it a little hard to watch me guard Sakaki's invisible after-image. Didn't seem like Sakaki was likely to step outside of her room today, so I decided to accept.
いや、ごめんね、ユージ。車もバイクも調子悪くてさ。その上いろいろと買うものだけはあって、ちょっと困ってたのよね。
Picked up a bunch of small miscellaneous items from me on the previous shopping trip, but today it's mainly bulky items like tissue paper and rice. All three of us have our hands pretty full by the end. Definitely would have been difficult with just two girls. Normally mind. Also, the sandbar is one thing, but I'm having a really hard time imagining you carrying 10 kilos of rice on a motorcycle.
まあ、そりゃそうよね。
It looked like a Vietnamese bike driver.
Fucking the dude on the video of the dude that's like loading up a fucking fridge on his shoulder, like just himself, then gets on top of a fucking bicycle and just starts pedaling down the road with a fucking fridge on his back. And again, I'm puttering along heavily in a prototypical country mini truck packed to the gills with provision would probably be pretty comical, but... And like the first case, it's funny because she looks so perfectly appropriate in that picture. Probably meant to mention it.
ああもうこのトイレットペーパーってやつはなんでこう指が痛くなる作りにしてんのよ。お客様サポート機能してんの？
Temporarily lowering a package of 12 recycled paper rolls on the ground, Michiru shakes her hands in pain. Her index and middle fingers are already marked with bright red lines. No way to get around it. when you're carrying those things.
じゃあこれ使う？こないだマキナに届いてた荷物の持ち手なんだけどさ。
おお、引っ越しの時に使う緑のあれじゃん。使う。すごいわね、アマネ。なんでこんなの持ってんのよ。
いや、なんか使うかなって思って持ってたんだけどさ。
あのさ、アマネ、助けてもらって言うのもなんだけどさ、あんた本当におば。
皆まで言わなくてもいいわよ。とっくに自覚してるからさ。どうでもいい。
大丈夫よ。男ってそういう母性のある女には弱いって聞くしさ。ほら、ユージからも何か言ってやってよ。ねえ。
What? Melissa's response is met with two vaguely reproachful glares. What's with the look? And the groaning?
はあ、またしてもうちら置いてけぼりっすか。
置いてけぼりっすね。今日これで3回目っすね。
Do me a favor and cut it out with a synchronized scorn. What do you mean the third time? He answered my question with a pair of exaggerated American-style shrugs. After another set of deep, simultaneous sighs to begin talking to each other instead of me.
聞きましたか、マネさん。この野郎、さっきまでの2回のスルーはカウントすらしてなかったみたいっすよ。
マジ空気っすね。何もないっすね。こっちは気遣って話しかけてんのにマジ空気っすよ。やってられねえっすよ。
So it would seem I've fallen out of conversation twice before without even realizing it. Putting aside this irritating little routine, I do feel slightly guilty about whiffing on their thoughtful attempts to feed me setup lines. Yeah, I guess I was a little lost in thought. Didn't mean to ignore you guys. Sorry about that. Amane and Michiu glance at each other and exchange brief, slightly tired little sighs. But when Amane turns back to look me in the eye, there's an oddly gentle expression on her face.
榊さんのことよね。
Yeah, that's right. Right, it's all right through me. Signs like these that make you realize women control the world on a pretty fundamental level.
まあ心配よね。解雇されたとは言っても、あの子の周りに何も起こらないって保証があるわけじゃないし、そもそも何が起こってるのかもよく分かってないしね。
How's Skag been doing lately from what you've seen? Anything noticeably different? Amane shakes her head slowly.
パッと見は変わんないけど、やっぱ少し落ち込んでるっぽいわね。
マキナがいつもの調子で突っ込んでも寂しそうな顔して「そうね」とか言ってるだけだもんね。普段のユミコとは明らかに違うというか。
I see. Skag is trying to at least appear calm around me. But even so, it seems she isn't completely able to hide the turmoil beneath the surface.
まあそのさ、私には難しくてわかんないけど、あんたまでそんなんじゃみんな一緒くたで落ち込んじゃうから、とりあえずから元気だけでも出しときなって。
そうそう、ここでごちゃごちゃ考えててもしゃあないわけやし、家戻ったらごちそう作ったるさかい、それ食べて元気出しやな。
Amane delivers this line with a guffaw and a friendly smack to my ass. Not only am I unable to help Sakaki, I've ended up getting my classmates worried about me. Truly pathetic. What am I supposed to do now? Yet again, I found myself mired in a simple question that has no clear answer. What's that? As we're getting close to the door, I notice something slightly out of place. The sound of multiple engines moving away from the entrance.
なんか車の音したよね。
学園長は夏休みでいないはずだし、何なんだろう。
Amane is the only one here with a motor vehicle of any kind, and it's pretty rare to hear engines running this close to the school. Principal and JB would be the main subject, but as Michiu pointed out, the form is on location, and the latter wouldn't just disappear before I came back. Spurred by a sudden sense of unease, I set off towards the dorm at a run.
あ、ユージ？どうしたのよ、急に。
The instant I opened the door, the dorm's front door, Makina comes running up to me. What happened, Makina?
いきなりユミちゃんが
マーキナ、落ち着いて何があったか話して。
急だったのよさ。ママ姉たちが買い物に出かけてすぐぐらいに が急に止まって、ほんでユミちゃんはいるかって聞かれて、私が答えないでいたら無理やりにでも中に入るぞって脅してきて。怪我とかなかったの？あんた大丈夫だったの？怪我とかさせられる前にユミちゃんから出てきちゃったのよさ。
Kaka came out, mocking the nods repeatedly.
ユミちゃん、これ以上みんなに迷惑かけられないからって荷物を持ってきて、そのまま車に乗っちゃったのよさ。そんな、どこ行くかとか言ってなかった？
This time the girl slowly shakes her head from side to side.
一言も言わなかったのよさ。みんな黙ったままですごく怖かったの。そっか、よしよし。
Amina hugs the anxious looking Maki in her clothes and begins to lightly stroke her head.
ユージ、どうしたの？顔、怖いよ。
Michi looks up at me, uneasiness in her eyes. Man with a mountain, is this really what you want, Skaki? An image of Skaki's desolate expression on the night she dismissed me floats to the surface of my mind. A message. An electronic chime from my cell phone temporarily interrupts my line of thought. Skaki. When I read those lines, the face that flashed before my eyes don't belong to Skaki. It's the face of a woman who once spoke the same words to me over and over again. A woman who never accomplished anything, never broke free. And then a man with an angular face reaching his hands out for me, swinging his fists mercilessly into my face. Memories seem to rise up out of the tiny LCD screen and push their way into this present. An idiot! Closing the cell phone, I snap out the words reflectively.
ユージ？どうしたの？何かあったの？
Ignoring their concern, I fire off a question to Makina. Makina, what was the model and color of the cars and how many were there?
黒のエンチュリーで2台で来てたのよさ。
I see. Nodding, I glance quickly around the room one final time. I'm going.
ユージ！ちょっとあんたどこ行く気なの？
That's the last thing I want to hear from you, Sakaki. I'm sick of it. I won't hesitate anymore. We both made a mistake, and I'm not about to let us repeat them. Sprint towards the front gate as fast as I can. Shit! A pair of cars carrying Sakaki already left a minute or two ago. For a moment, I need to get my hands on something I can use to pursue them. Of course, there aren't any cars conveniently lying around with key in the ignition. And there's motorcycle sandbar to condition too. What do I do? Just as I'm running through various possibilities in my head. Here's someone humming a cheerful tune, soon followed by a carefree greeting.
風見さん、お戻りでしたか。
Bike!
Imagine if, like, he sees Sachi, just fucking points at her and screams, "Bike!"
Please, save it for her route if you want to take her for a ride.
On a bicycle. Judging from the tranquil smile on her face, it seems she missed the early commotion entirely. Sachi, that's... The bike is a medium-sized modern model with small tires, more than a little out of sync with the maid uniform. Sachi lowers herself to the ground easily with a little whoopsie-daisy, then lowers her kickstand with one smooth motion of her leg. A mini velo, eh?
はい、そうです。さすがは風見さん、よくご存知で。
An ivory-colored frame with two cute little wheels on it, and since the tire diameter is small, it's easy to get it moving quickly. Even knew the few guys in my company with a passion for these things.
ここ最近、ウィーグレから毎日のようにメールが届いてまして、それで思い切って買ってしまった次第です。あ、ウィーグレというのはイギリスの通販サイトなんですが、風見さんご存知でしたか？
Do you know what she's referencing, Eagle?
To be honest with you, I can't say I have heard of it much either. But then again, this is back in 2011, 2011, 2012 when this was made. So maybe it was a short-lived thing. Mind you, Amazon was more popular.
I've heard people
Maybe
say
Amazon
these things are
swallowed them.
small, but well made, so it's true. With a few quick movements, I inspect the handle, seat, and body of the tires. Looks like she might have bought a slightly customized model. The frame seems to have been strengthened in place to endure bumpier conditions. This area does have a lot of unsurfaced and poorly maintained roads. Very typical of Sachi to account for these things in advance.
直訳すると、ヘイサチ、ポンドがボロ安で自転車安いから、フィッシュ&チップス感覚でチャリでも買わないかいとか。
What the fuck?
Cheap
So
as chips is a bit of a misnomer these days.
Yeah, everything's
Something
fancy
along
these
those
days.
lines.
そうそう、そもそもミニベロのベロというのはフランス語で自転車を意味してるんですが。
Sachi, think I could ride this
Ah.
without issues?
はいもちろんです整備も万全ですよ試しに軽く乗ってみますか
Sounds good. Swing myself onto the mini velo and put my feet on the pedals.
早速乗ってくださるんですかそれは何よりです今しがた油も差したばかりなので実に素晴らしいすって風見さん
See you later.
ヤッホーミハモライダーかっこいいあれ
Its wheels whistling cheerfully, Sachi's mini velo zips jauntily through the roads. This thing's fundamentally designed for riding around town, but unfortunately it's capable of reaching a decent speed as well. The cyclical computer installed in the center indicates an average velocity of around 35 kilometers an hour. Can't compete with a motorcycle or anything, but it's still decent performance for the size. This really is going to be tough. That said, I'm up against motor vehicles and they have a head start. Damn, can't believe that that Yuji is not as Chad as the fucking main character of If My Heart Had Wings. Who fucking caught up with a fucking car that had like a lot more of a head start heading to the fucking freeway.
Yeah, but he is a professional cyclist. Also, I've done a bit of Googling, and Wiggle CRC Group, or Wiggle Limited, is an online brand of the Frasers Group. Unfortunately, now in administration since March 2024, and yes, also sold cycle parts.
There's a decent amount of traffic since it's summer vacation and all, but they still leave me in the dust easily enough. I'm not gonna get anywhere at this rate. Fortunately, they are traveling on a winding, narrow, prefectural road of this sort you'll often find in this type of small peninsula. Country roads present their own opportunities for this experienced rider. With a little skill and luck, it might be possible to catch them, even riding a mini velo with a maximum speed of 50 kilometers an hour. Assuming that the cars are headed for the metropolitan area at the entrance of the toll road 15 kilometers ahead would probably be my last chance to catch him. Any further than that, a bicycle just won't be enough. Alright, I feel bad for Sachi, but I'm gonna have to treat this thing a little roughly. Leaning heavily to the right, I turn my bicycle into a farm road that leads to a nearby mountain. Tires crunch through rough pebbles, and our bodies jolted by small impacts running through the frame. Soon I'm surrounded by forest. The trail ahead is one of the more blatant examples of a bad road you're ever likely to see. So I push forward without hesitation. Within seconds, leaves and branches are slapping heavily against my face and arms from all sides. I'm prepared for a badly maintained road from the start, but this almost exceeds my expectations. Truly terrible conditions. This region was once used as an army maneuvering ground. Wouldn't surprise me if this thing dates back to those days. The designers clearly weren't interested in ensuring a pleasant or easy ride. It's impossible to avoid catching the tires on unnatural holes and rocks that fill the path. Struggle along as best as I can, using my hands and my own weight to avoid the worst obstacles. Still, no matter how skillfully I ride, my speed keeps falling. My feelings of impatience are giving way to outright frustration. Damn it! Even so, there's a definite shortcut. Going straight through will get me to my objective much more quickly than following that meandering road around and around. Lowering my head, I pump the pedal as fast as possible, warding off branches with one hand when necessary. The slope of the road begins to grow slightly easier. Eventually, the overhanging trees begin to thin out as well. And suddenly, my field of vision expands dramatically. It seems I've reached the summit of this foothill. The trail is increasingly level underneath me, and it's less of a challenge to move pedals. Best of all, the practically non-existent road finally changed to some more worthy of the name. Alright, there you are! Catch a glimpse of two black sedans on the prefectural road stretching up below. Cars like that aren't common around here, and they're exactly as Maka described them. Skaki has to be in one or the other. Yeah, you see them down there. No, it's just a question of catching up, I guess. On a winding road, they're following only continues for another 7 kilometers or so. Also, this is not a fucking regular city bike. This is a fucking race bike, full on. Like, fuck off. Sachi was not writing this beforehand. She fucking staged all of that.
Yeah. Well, I did remark in the Google search that they are a sports supplier.
That winding road they're following only continues for another 7 kilometers or so. I've got to somehow get ahead of them and set up an ambush before they get off. Doesn't help that I don't know exactly where they're going. The city's my best guess, and since they're on this road, I can speculate they're trying to take the highway, but I have no proof. They're if they take a different route, I'm SOL out of the way. At this point, I realized that cell phone in my breast pocket is vibrating. I'm gonna 8 missed calls must have been started by the sudden exit. But always just fill her in late if I feel bad for making her worry too much. It's time to answer the call. At you, Omna, I think you're aware, but I'm sort of in the middle of something. Let's talk later. Sorry about that. You'll get in touch once things have calmed down a little. What? Look, I'm trying to follow the cars in question. Don't really have time to... I see, so that's what this is about. Ah, sorry, that should be a help. Does Kaki get in touch or something?
残念ながらそうじゃないけど関係ありそうな話よ。運転しながら話できる？
Not perfectly, but we should be able to hold a conversation. What's this information?
その前に今どこ走ってるの？
I'm following the Mishima Cape coastline. The cars are heading north to the prefectural road, and I'm taking a shitty mountain road running along almost parallel. Bit of a shortcut.
じゃあこっちの想像通りかもね。車がどこに向かってるか、ユージはもう掴んでる？
No, I guess they were heading to Tokyo since Kaki's father was involved. Am I wrong?
やっぱり榊さんの実家が関係してたのね。だったら当たりかも。あのね、半島の根元のとこ、ちょうど今走ってる先の方に榊さんとこの会社所有のヘリポートがあるんだけど、ユージも聞いたことなかったっけ？
Come to think of it, I think Skaki mentioned this before. Apparently it was built more or less for the exclusive use of the company's top brass and their families. Stuck on my mind is a particularly impressive example of late capitalism's excess. Yeah, now that you mention it, I've heard that they weren't using it
そ
anymore.
れがね、マキナがさっき調べてくれたんだけど、今日朝からそこで見慣れないヘリが1機ずっと待機してるらしくて。
Seriously?
撮影マニアの集まる掲示板に書いてあったらしいんだけど、いつもはいないはずの背広姿の人たちも周囲をうろうろしてるとかで、妙にピリピリした空気が漂ってるみたい。
See, that sounds kind of a thing. If they snip her out of here in the air. The heliport isn't far from the interchange leading to the highway, maybe 700 or 800 meters. Entirely plausible given their current position. It's hard to think the unusual situation there is a
ね
coincidence.
え、これ怪しいと思わない？
Forget Fishy is probably where they're taking her. Alright, I'm going to end the call. Thanks. It's helpful to know their destination, but that doesn't make this chase any easier. I mean, heliports tend to be, like, out of the way, so you can probably take a massive shortcut by just going over land.
Yeah.
I want to wait until Buddy's back. I assume it's not going to take too long since it's just muted and said BRB instead of saying everything.
Yeah.
That gives you some time to eat cheese. Oh, there you go.
Okay, now he dropped.
Yeah, we're pausing the recording. He has graced us with his presence again. Once he gets on that helicopter, it's game over. Absolutely have to catch up before then somehow. Seriously, this road is the worst. Branches snapping onto my face, vines catching my hair, and the rocks randomly lying across the ground are constantly slowing the rotation of my tires. The cars, visible only for brief moments in between gaps in the trees, seem to slowly be pulling further away. Yet my odds of catching up are getting longer. What? I mean lower. I'm gonna need some luck at this point. The mountain road I chose as a shortcut was ideal in terms of distance. At full speed, I might have gotten ahead of them by now. But riding on hilly terrain or pushing my way through thick undergrowth cost me more time than I expected. I take advantage of the less time lost when they disembark. It's not that they can just drive the whole car into the helicopter. At the very least, it'll take them a minute or two to get everyone out of the car and into the chopper.
Unless they buy a Chinook.
Fucking the car just fucking cleanly snaps onto the chopper and just takes off. Practically tumbling down the descending path branching off the mountain trail, I finally rejoined the prefectural road. The alley board in question is only 400 or 500 meters ahead. The cars are no longer visible. Can I make it? Ignoring the traffic light ahead, I let my momentum carry me across the intersection, weaving between the cross traffic. My ears ring with a dozen honking horns as I rush directly towards the heliport. A small facility on a sprawling plot of land surrounded by fences comes into view. This has got to be it if I remember the map correctly. With a powerful squeal of the brakes, I forced the bike from its maximum speed to a halt. Damn, too late. As I'm rolling up to the fence, the sound of a helicopter rotor fills the air. There are ways to get a chopper back on the ground, but few that involve it staying in one piece, and none that are available to me now. But following a car is one thing. Following a car is one thing, Chip. But chasing a helicopter in a mini velo would just be absurd. I mean, forget a mini velo. No matter what kind of vehicle you have, keeping up with that thing from the ground is going to be very close to impossible. So much for that plan. I watch as the helicopter slowly rises into the sky and turns its nose to the west. For some reason, the direction of this flight strikes me as a little strange. I'm going to the city. The helicopter is heading almost directly away from Tokyo. It maintains a course to the west, flying parallel to the Shonan coastline, or correctly to the west of here. There's... Huh? But as I'm thinking about the helicopter's possible destination... Completely out of place kansai drawl rings out of the dry summer air. What, you talking to me?
My favorite side character.
Compared to Amin, relatively soft Kyoto dialect, he's got a seriously strong accent. Probably from the Kawachi area. I see, in other words, my presence in the middle of the road is obstructing your passage. Got a dome over here and bleached such a fine, blinding blonde that even Michiru would bow down, and a sharp, beaky nose that actually works for him somehow. Expensive clothes too, than the last guy you would expect to have such a thick drawl. Character redesign might be in order. That blonde hair isn't the only thing that clashes with the Kansai dialect. Once I get a look at the car he's driving, my eyes stop moving entirely. Ghilardi's Spider! What's a car like this doing here? Well, that out of the planet. Of all the out-of-place things in front of me, and this is without a doubt the most bizarre and misplaced of all.
Not to mention misspelled to avoid getting into a scrum with Lamborghini.
Well, yeah. It's the Lamborghini company's signature model, an extreme luxury sports car on the class of Gerard, with a sticker price that could buy you a whole chunk of real estate.
東河内の商工会議所におんねんけど、そこがなんや知らんけど、イタリーとって言ったらあかんけど、時速300キロ出せんねんでこれ。ビビるやろ？ランボリギーニ乗ってるやつはおっても、こんなんに乗ってるのはわし。ちょっと兄ちゃん、ベタベタ触らんとってんか？
Yeah, this thing's about as fast as they come. Seriously, hard to believe I'm seeing a car like this in Japan.
まあ、せやな。俺もこう、もうちょいそれ相応の場所に行ったら、バーッとスピード出すねんけどな。日本やと捕まってしまうさかいにな。
Anyways, seriously got a nice ride.
なあ、もう分かったやろ。わし、パティ行かなあかんねん。はよどいてくれんと時間に間に合わん。
Leaning in close to the man's beak nose, I speak in a very deliberate tone of voice. Very nice ride. What the fuck is that here? What the fuck is that Yuji?
Yeah, it's just Don't Cut and, well, probably dumbass. Inagayado Spider.
He vaguely looks like fucking what, Asta, I think it was. Hold on. I don't mean Aster Phoenix.
Did you just call him Asta?
Asta, not Asta. Like, and also Aster Phoenix, because Aster Phoenix is a character from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, yeah, it does kind of look like Asta from Black Clover, but his hair is black instead of white, which when he uses his weird sword, Asta becomes black-haired anyway. No fucking... Oh, fuck. My PC is currently not behaving. There we go. Fucking look at this. In inverse proportion to the man's fading shrieks, the needle of the speedometer soars steadily upward. Amazing! It's my first time actually riding in one of these things. The acceleration is powerful enough to make my whole body tremble. If this was a carefree joyride, I'd be perfectly content to tear around all day in this thing. It is truly magnificent car. It's impossible to hold a conversation unless we quite literally scream at each other. From what my new friend tells me, the car itself has been remodeled in a way, but it still roars as loudly as any hot rod I've ever seen. Absolutely not the sort of car you should be shipping to Japan of all places. Running around town doing the speed limit on a monster like this would be disrespectful, don't you think? As the man pressed back into his seat by the G-force, his attempts at speech slurs incoherently in the high-pitched little shriek. In the sky ahead, the helicopter continues its calm journey west along the coast. Maybe the wind's a little rough today. For whatever reason, it's flying at a pretty relaxed pace. It's getting too far ahead of us. Of course, that'd still be completely impossible without this absolute beast of fire. See, it wouldn't do to show up late to a party, I suppose. Sure, there's a small corporate airport not far from here. Owned and operated by Each Beast Transport, a company under the Each Beast Railway Group umbrella. It's mainly used for in-company freight planes carrying parts and equipment from overseas. But every once in a while, a private jet does fly out of there. Now, the helicopter carrying Sakaki is headed straight forward. You understand where I'm going with this? Once that airplane takes off, it's going to become very close to impossible for me to help Sakaki. I'd probably ship her off to some foreign school if it was in his shoes. There's always a risk of information leaking if you hide her in Japan, but that risk gets a lot smaller overseas. Right, sorry, we should be there in less than 20 minutes at this pace. Just tough it out. This man is strangely accommodating.
In some ways, yes.
The helicopter seems to have increased its speed ever so slightly. It's very gradual, but I think they're starting to increase the distance between us. I'm gonna pick up the pace a little. Don't talk, they'll bite your tongue. The instant we turn to a straight stretch of roads, I press the gas pedal to the floor. That was a fucking noise at the start. Fucking cow, man.
Does this sound human now?
ありがとうございます。先生のご紹介でしたら、私としても安心でして。はい。娘も本格的に英語を学びたいと、前々から言っておりましたので。もちろんです。門間さんの件も含めまして、近々そちらにもお伺いしようかと思っておりまして。はい。そちら方面についてもどうぞご期待くださいませ。はい。ではこれにて失礼いたします。入りなさい。
失礼します。
状況はどうだ？
今、ヘリで空港へ向かっております。順調に行けば、明日早朝にもアメリカへ到着する予定です。
順調に行けばでは困る。万全を期したまえ。
はい。失礼いたしました。
例の軍人崩れのガキはどうした？
由美子様をお連れする時も姿は一切見えませんでした。おそらくは陸将補の命令で遠ざけられたのではないかと。
そうか。 油断はしないようにな。
はい、わかりました。失礼いた。
海外にでも運んでしまえば、そうそう変な虫もつかんだろうさ。榊家のためにも、おとなしくしていてもらうぞ、ユミコ。
Subaru flies past at astonishing speed. There's a bit more traffic now, but the oncoming cars flinch in terror the instant they see us approaching. They pull over to the shoulder, one by one, as we roar forward down the road. Still can't catch him! Most of my concentration is focused on manipulating the steering wheel, but every second I glance over at the helicopter from the corner of my eye. It has really picked up speed. The terms of this race simply weren't fair to begin with. They're flying a direct course to the sky with no obstacles or signs to worry about, completely different from chugging along on a public road. No matter how nice your car might be. My friend's voice has by now lost almost all its initial vigor, and he keeps up a constant stream of questions about the time. Seems he's really worried about that party of his. Okay, one more turn, there's a straight shot after this. The car drifts into the intersection, tires squealing as the rear swings out to the side. A small sign of the airport flashes past in a fraction of a second before we speed off again. Another 3 kilometers to go. Gotta beat them there and find a way to intercept their
This
cargo.
is just like the hit animated show Initial D.
Gas, gas, gas! For now, I simply tear down the road, running parallel to the coast at full speed. The entrance to the airport comes into view, then a small control tower and a number of nondescript cargo aircraft. Among them, there's a single plane that's conspicuously different from the others. There's a smaller craft with stripes and the East Beach Express red and blue on its flank. Has to be a passenger jet belonging to the company. Just as at its side, the helicopter I've been chasing all this time has already landed. Shit, too late again! As the crow flies, it's only 300 meters away. Close enough that I can actually see the small group of people boarding the jet. I grew up desperately for some sort of solution, but even if I ran my way into the hotel at the airport, there's not much I can do now that they're fully embarked. Frustrating as it is to admit, I'm out of ideas. The jet begins to taxi for takeoff. Practically the instant the door shuts behind the last passenger. So much for my wishful thinking about a multi-hour delay.
もう空港着いたやろ。もうそろそろ勘弁してや。なあ、俺七面鳥届けなあかんってさっきも言うたやろ。
Sorry, but I don't have time to chat about your bird right now. Bird. The instant the word leaves my mouth, something occurs to me. Thank.
何よ。
Gosh, question, that turkey of yours, is it frozen?
そんなこと聞いて何になるっちゅうね。今そんなこと答えても。
Hurry!
冷凍です。保冷剤も詰めてまして、まだこっちこっちの状態やと。
See, a wise choice. Hopping out of the driver's seat, I walk over to the passenger side of the car and lightly grab hold of the man's shoulder. You're on the wheel, all right? Just do it exactly what I tell you.
おい、どういうこっちゃ。空港まで着けばって言っとったんに。これ以上何せっちゃ。
Why is this blonde man an MVP?
I did tell you that that it was my favorite secondary character.
Like, this blonde man literally just doesn't give a shit. He's just like, okay, I don't know what's happening. This random man has hijacked my car and is driving way past the speed limit. But hey, I at least should be accommodating, right?
He's a good man.
This time I lean down and bellow into his ears.
Hurry up!
お父様よりお聞きかとは思いますが、このまま冬季はアメリカに向かいます。
アメリカ？
はい。
アメリカや。
お聞きではありませんでしたか？
なるほど。厄介払いにはちょうど良さそうな場所ね。
後ほど資料をご用意いたします。お疲れでしょうし、お休みになられた後にでもお目を通していただければと。
Hold on, I'm crushing the Doritos. I crushed it too well. The fucking packaging broke open. Luckily, only a little bit of the crumbs have fallen onto my pants.
those spilled bits and toss them in the garbage. The car crashes through the thin fence separating the airport from the public road with a satisfying crunch. Aiming for the runway where the jet's already in position for takeoff, we charge forward at maximum speed.
もうどないしょフロント直さんとあかんよなこないだぶつけて直してもらったばっかりやのに
Alright, line her up right beside that jet. After that, just hold steady and keep the accelerator to the floor. While shouting instructions to
A
my
Michael
good
Bay
friend,
movie.
I retrieve a large flashy box from the back seat.
ちょっと何すんねんなそれ俺の七面鳥やでなあ
The passenger jet takes off at around 285 kilometers an hour. You should just barely be able to catch up to this thing.
おいちょっと話聞けやいや聞いてくれません
Now, would you like to guess what they're going to do?
Toss the turkey into the turbine.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
They're gonna
yeah,
use
they're
this
going-
bird to make that plane flightless like a penguin.
Now turkeys will fly.
We can make it if you keep that pedal all the way down. I'm counting on you.
ちょ何すんの
Take out the enormous lump of bird flesh from its bed of cold gel packs and hold it high in the air like a championship trophy. The wind pressure! We're traveling at a speed sufficient to lift an airplane into the sky. The moment I stand up from behind the windshield, the air rushing past shakes my body violently. Somehow holding myself steady, I dig my fingers into the turkey and move my hand slightly forward. It's an absurd plan, and I don't have a chance to rehearse. I can only hope I get the timing and angle of release correct. Still, I've got no choice but to try. Hey, can't you get this thing going any faster?
むっちゃいいよなもう無理やってそれより俺の鳥どうすんねや
Only possible to catch up with the plane at V1 speed. Just gotta make it before then. Alright, good. Keep it like this. Oops. The car slips out from under the engine and begins to push slightly ahead. Carefully watching the distance, I wait for the right moment. Another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Now! Throwing both arms up with all my might, I fling the cold lump into the air and let the wind carry it back. The turkey soars majestically to the sky and then instantly captured by the powerful suction of the intake, curves towards the engine. There we go.
何の音だ
Bird strike.
バードストライクですエンジンに鳥を巻き込んだようです
Your goose is cooked, bitch.
飛べないのか無理です急停止します早く原因を調べろ代わりに飛べる機の手配を急げはい何か外で異変が起こったかもしれん停止したらすぐに調べるんだわかりましたよし行けはいどうした
何かあったの
大丈夫です様子を見てまいりますのでこちらにてお待ちくださいおい今行くぞ何があった
何なの一体何が
Sitting at the very back of the 20-seat cabin, crouching as if dying to resolve. Her frightened expression changes to one of stunned astonishment the moment our eyes meet. Yo! Speaking in the same casual tone I always used to greet her in the classroom.
どうしてあなたにこれ以上迷惑をかけたくないからだから
Fusaki could continue, I snap open my cell phone and show her the screen.
私の送った
Yeah, probably intended for it to be her goodbye, but instead those words brought me here. Again with the I'm sorry, huh? I told you not to say that anymore, didn't I? Fuskaki's bewildered expression crumples. All of a sudden, she is on the verge of breaking down.
だって私あなたに本当に迷惑ばかりかけてだから謝らなきゃって思って
I will always say, you are not the one that gets to decide if you're a nuisance to me.
Yeah, this kind of seems like a subjective thing that should be his decision.
Yeah.
あなただけじゃない寮の他の子にも 今まで私に関わってきて親切にしてくれた人にもみんな。
Little her eyes filled with tears. Her voice quavers as she wipes them away with her hands. Nerkies, keep going until you repay him properly. Nobody wants your apologies, alright? Try gratitude instead.
感謝で。
That's right. With a nod to Skaki, I slowly moved my hand off the seat and extended forward. Once, when I was at absolute rock bottom, my master reached out a hand to me. Now, I'm imitating her as best as can. I reach out to Skaki.
かずみくん。
Skaki observes my outstretched hand uncertainly. With her eyes still full of hesitation, she looks up to me. You're right here, Skaki Yumiko. I can see you just fine. Come with me. For years, she refused to acknowledge the girl in the mirror as anything but a character in a play. Shrinking back from the world, she lost her place in it entirely. And so I begin with a simpler affirmation of her existence. I'll get you out of here. I'll hold you up until you can walk, and I'll speak until you find your voice. Don't dance on anyone's strings. You can live your life however you want. Came here to show you how.
逃げるの？
Not quite. I want us to search for an answer.
探す？
Skaki Yumiko is a daughter of the Skaki family. She's also first and foremost a human being. In the course of life filled with painful events completely beyond her control, she nearly lost sight of that. But it's an absolute fact. Right now, this girl's lost the ability to live on her own terms. So until she can find her answer, I'll just have to keep her safe. Now that I've made that decision, I'm not going to back down no matter what comes next. Even my own country comes after me. Let's go, Yumiko. Skaki reacts strongly to that word. I haven't used her name since the day we reached our first wary truce. But I am breaking that seal. That's the clearest way I have to demonstrate how I see her now. Come on, Yumiko. Bring my hand still closer. I think she understands. I'm not talking to the daughter of the railroad tycoon or an antisocial problem child. I'm talking to a fellow human being. And because she understands, her face grows all the more uncertain. Part of her is questioning whether she deserves all this. Yumiko! This man's just talking to her like a fucking misbehaving child now. Come on, eat your vegetables, Yumiko!
I can imagine her reaction right now. Rage.
Instead of saying it's alright, I call out her name and push my hand forward. Skaki's breath catches in her throat. She moves her mouth slightly without producing a sound as if to practice. And then, somewhat hesitantly, she
いい
speaks.
の？本当に？
Yes.
分かったわ。
Yumiko nods and takes my hand. At first, it's a gentle, hesitant touch, but soon her grip grows firm. I clasp her hand tightly in return and draw her up out of her seat. I'll be others coming soon. We need to hurry. Leading her by the hand, I exit the plane by the escape chute. Quick glance around suggests no one's pursuing us yet. Still, I leave at a run, pulling Yumiko along behind me. It's the first time I've ever really held the girl's hand. It feels slender in mine, surprisingly small. From now on, I'll have to lead Yumiko safely forward, shielding her from danger. It's a serious responsibility. I knew that from the start. But right now, it feels terribly real. Having someone to protect really weighs it down, Asako. I was it like this for my master when she pulled me along all those years ago. Right now, Yumiko's small hand feels unbelievably heavy. Can a piece of trash like me really carry this kind of weight? I could feel doubt oozing out of me like sweat. That's not good. It'll only make Yumiko uneasy if I start brooding. Shake my head a little, I resettle my hand around hers. A tight grip so that it can't slip away. Beyond the quickly parting clouds, I can see the sky gradually turning red. Night will be here before long. I feel the white stretches out endlessly before me. Such a pure brilliant light that it seems like my fingers will melt away if I reach out to touch it. But that's not really an option in the first place. My body feels like it's buried under layers of mud. Even the slightest movement is frustratingly difficult. It takes all my effort just to lift my hand a fraction of an inch. It's there. I could hear a voice at my ear. Maybe it's coming from inside my ear itself. I can't even tell. It's a woman's voice, not particularly gentle, but very familiar. She's speaking a name. Tell me something. Want to know, but the words fade in and out of audibility, slippery and evasive. Man finally moves, grip around above my chest, trying to grab hold of the voice. Speak more clearly. I want to hear what that voice is trying to tell me. I want to know where this strange nostalgia is coming from. It's enough if I found my hand mired in the mud once more. Maybe it was wrong of me to try in the first place. Maybe I don't deserve to hear those words.
Oi, Ninja!
Shout from overhead breaks forcibly into the dream. I feel the white as in front of me gradually takes on shades of blue. I try to move my hand to shield my eyes from a dazzling spot of light, but there's something soft on top of my body that gets in the way. What is this? As I pull the lump of cloth off me and examine it through my bleary eye, the man standing over me takes a cigarette from his mouth and answers in a slightly exasperated tone.
毛布だよ、毛布。兄ちゃん、このクソ寒いのに半袖で寝てただろ。それで、半端のおばちゃんが持ってきてくれたんだよ。
I see, it is a bit chilly, I guess. The sun's certainly bright enough, but the air is far from warm. My sleep-fogged mind takes a few seconds to recall the date of my current situation. It's November, having lost my precious occupation several months ago. I'm lying on the ground outside my new workplace, apparently at the end of a brief nap.
もう昼休み終わっぞ。ぼちぼち準備した方がいいんじゃねえのか。
Right, my apologies. The worker stubs out his cigarette in an ashtray nearby and smiles wryly at me.
兄ちゃん、お前若いのに俺の親父みたいな喋り方するな。
A fact, not really doing on
だ
purpose.
としたら、前の職場なり学校なりがえれえ厳しいところだったんだな。親父さん、教師でもやってたのか？
No, nothing like that, but the person who raised me was a little unique.
じゃあそっちだな。まあ、こういう職場なんだしよ。もっと気楽にやれや。な。
Dumping a hand onto my shoulder, the man shakes me back and forth in what's presumably intended to be a friendly gesture. Right, my
言
apologies.
ってるそばからこれだよ。いけね。始まるぞ。俺、行こう。
Yeah, grab the helmet lying at my side and head for the side at a jog. Sun already falling lower in the sky gently warms my back. Kanagawa Prefecture, a certain place. In television dramas and such, fugitives on the run from something or other often head straight for the sleepiest stretch of countryside they can find. Yeah, that's not a good idea. The basic idea is that less people means less opportunities for someone to see you, but 9 times out of 10, that's a downright terrible strategy, and outsider suddenly showing up at a tiny close-knit community stands out like the proverbial sore thumb. As anyone who's read a decently plotted mystery novel can tell you, hide a leaf among leaves and a corpse among corpses. And when you're looking for a place with a high population that offers convenient opportunities for under-the-table employment, the metropolitan area is the obvious choice. When you're hiding a person, do it among people. That's one lesson I learned not from my master, but through painful and personal experience. The day's work finished up right on schedule. I walked the road home at a steady pace, a bag of deep-fried food from one of my new co-workers dangling from one end. This town, about an hour by train from the heart of Tokyo, used to be one of the old-school red-light districts back in the day. Even now that it's been cleaned up, the atmosphere is still a little on the seedy side. Anybody would get lost in their first trip through this warren of narrow streets and tangled alleyways. Not the most convenient town to lead a normal life in, but right now is exactly what we need. Nothing seems off today either. With small movements of my eyes, I observe the appearance and behavior of the people around me. Apart from the checking of the possible surveillance personnel, I'm looking for changes in the neighborhood shops and restaurants. Anything slightly different from yesterday warrants careful scrutiny. Although it's a pure habit by now, it still involves a good deal of mental focus and emotional strain. Honestly pretty rough when I'm coming home physically exhausted from a long day of manual labor. Still, letting down my guard isn't an option. We're tucked away pretty discreetly here, but there are definitely people looking for us, and a single coincidence could completely overturn the status quo. Quietly repeating that fact to myself, I take yet another look around. I overlap my memorized image from yesterday with the street before my eyes and compare the two carefully. About 15 minutes walking distance from the station, I slip through a pair of alleyways that enter a small apartment building. There are more straightforward routes home, but I've been deliberately taking a tangled path to make life a little harder for anyone who tries to follow. After a slow, watchful climb of the stairs, I unlock the door marked 203 and enter the room. I'm back. I'm quiet today as well. When I open the door, I'm immediately greeted by a relieved face.
ええ、今日も何もなかったわ。
Confirming that Yumiko's present, and, well, I finally allow myself to relax a little. Alright, good to hear. Taking off my shoes, I hand over the sack with the fried food. Got another present from Sawai. Can you get out the plates?
いつもの人ね。こっちは何も返せないのに、なんだか悪いわ。
Well, as far as they know, I'm living alone. I don't eat that much at lunch. Guess they're a little worried about my diet.
親切な人が多いのね。あなたの職場には。
They're a little on the rough side, but yeah, you aren't wrong. After leaving my bag on the floor, I head to the kitchen area. I'll warm up a bit and throw something together. Warm it up a bit.
わかった
Cold water falling under my hand feels like a sign of the change of seasons. Autumn may linger a little while longer by the calendar, but soon it'll be winter in all but name. Giomine, I got Skaki out of there. Sorry about the hassle. I'll be getting in touch again at some point, but I had Skaki throw his cell away. Keep in mind that we won't be able to answer calls from your end for the moment. Also tell Sachi I'm sorry about the bike. I'll compensate her as soon as I get the chance. Alright, hanging up now.
スオさん
Yeah, the others made some real contributions to the rescue operations.
また私みんなに
This is a time to be feeling guilty. For the moment, let's just focus on getting ourselves somewhere where they can't track us
当て
down.
はあるの
I've made some preparations for the rainy day scenarios. Stop by there first. Still pulling Yumiko along, I looked over to meet her eyes. Don't worry, it's gonna be alright, trust me. Answered while squeezing my hand powerfully in hers.
連れ去られましたで済む問題か。ヘリや飛行機まで飛ばしながらこのざまとは、お前たちは寝ながら警護していたのか。
申し訳ございません。あの男がまさかあんな想定外の行動に出るとは思わず。
その想定外に備えるのがお前たちの仕事だろうが。もういい。さっさと探しに行け。死ぬ気で行け。
Hope the stress causes him to have cardiac arrest.
はい。
Oh my god.
一体どうなっとるんだ、あなたたちの組織は。
申し訳ございません。当該の件につきましては、現在こちらも全力で対応に当たっております。
さっさと捕まえて殺したりなんなりしろ。ことが大きくならないうちに早急に解決させるんだ。
一つ質問があるのですが、よろしい？
なんだね。
どうして警察に通報なさらないのでしょうか。これは誘拐事件です。社長なら言うまでもなく警察関係者とのパイプもございます。早期解決を目指すとのことでしたら、私どもの組織や独自ルートに頼らずとも、その方
無理だと知っていて言っているのか。
いえ、私には分かりかねます。
今は会社にとっても私にとっても大切な時期だ。警察沙汰になれば必ずどこかから話は漏れる。メディアは報道管制で抑えられても妙な噂は立つだろう。そんなことになっては困るのだよ。ともかく警察沙汰にだけはできないんだ。そんなことを言う暇があったら少しでも早く解決する方法を考えた。
しかし
そもそもこれはあなたの部下がやらかした事件だろう。内部で処理するのが筋だろうが。
わかりました。最善を尽くします。
努力はせんでいい。必要なのは結果だけだ。
はい。
Our very modest dinner for the day consists of the deep fried food I brought home from work, which sides with boiled spinach and miso soup. With sides. We do have some savings from my rainy day fund, but we can't dip into it carelessly with such an uncertain future ahead of us. The diet's got pretty plain as a result. Not that Yumiko's ever breathed a word of complaint. Then again, she's always scarfing down junk food when we were in the dorms, so I guess she's not the biggest of eaters.
これがイカフライね。初めて食べるわ。
I can tell. I do seem to remember Akita telling me something about Yumiko's calamari history, or lack thereof, but I have to say, this is the first time I've seen someone examine a piece of fried squid quite this intently.
食べたことがないって言ったら寮でバカにされたのよ。
Well, congratulations on losing your fried squid virginity.
イリスさんみたいなことを言わないでちょうだい。
After those words leave Yumiko's mouth, a slightly lonely expression flits across her face.
またあの制服を着る時は来るのかしら。
Once your old man's dead, probably. Since our arrival here, those flashy school uniforms have naturally remained shut up inside our dressers. Unless we manage to get back to Miyama Academy someday, I suppose that's where they're going to stay. Do you want to?
そうね。似合ってるって言ってもらえた服だし。
If I hadn't rescued Yumiko, she would have been shipped off to some school overseas. Our old life would have disappeared whether I took action or not. There's nothing to regret.
どうしたの、風見くん。
It's nothing. Though I'd made some preparations for an emergency beforehand, the escape plan was still extremely reckless and dangerous. I acted boldly, assuming that the Skaki family circumstances would prevent them from turning this into a manhunt. Still, depending on their approach to the situation, might have ended up being caught within hours. But I couldn't bring myself to just desert Yumiko, whatever the risks. I couldn't just let her disappear and leave me with nothing but words of apology. I wanted to do something for her. Then again, that probably wasn't the only reason. I wanted to protect Yumiko. That was the single largest motive. But there was something else to it as well. Something more selfish. Should it, like, when he was on the call with Amane, just said that if they come to the fucking dorm for questioning or anything, just saying we have no idea, he just ran out, but he did call us like once and said, oh, by the way, if they come by, tell JB that make Ichigaya stop following us or there's going to be a whole lot of leaked info. Which, that would give JB an out to stop helping to do, because yeah, sure, he pays a shit ton of money.
But I doubt at that stage.
But what's more important, the money or the countless fucking potential scandals that information on his missions would open up? You don't even need to be like real deep information. It can literally just be like, oh yeah, by the way, that guy that mysteriously died in an accident, yeah, it was fucking a mission by this agency. And he just knows because he's the one who had to fucking cause the accident. I want to protect Yumiko. That was the single largest motive. But there was something else to it as well, something more selfish. The woman I get close to always seemed to disappear. At some point I'd grown afraid of that chain of loss, convinced myself it was a curse, a punishment of some sort. The more I started to care about Yumiko, the more I wondered if she'd follow the same pattern. And then they tried to take her away from me. Yumiko tries to speak, her voice soft but hesitates. Reading the atmosphere, I answered before she could continue. Are you about to apologize again, Yumiko? Looks like a Grisaia. She lowers her eyes from mine awkwardly. I would have told you to cut it out with that.
でも、私のせいで風見くんに迷惑をかけたし、今もこうして気を使わせてる。
Yumiko? Interrupted halfway through a sentence with a slightly forcible tone. I decided to protect you, and you decided to come with me. There's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to apologize for.
風見くん。
Look, Yumiko, you're finding your own person now. So for the moment, why not think about yourself? Imagine you've got a pretty decent backlog to work through on that front.
そうよね。
Yumiko nods firmly. Probably came off as pretty pompous there, but those words were directed at myself as much as her. What's driving me forward right now? It's absolutely true that I want to protect Yumiko and do what's best for her. But underneath those clear feelings, there's a number of hazier emotions I don't quite understand myself. When I took her out of the plane, I told her we'd search for an answer.
Thought that was the word Yumiko needed to hear most after all those years lost in the fog, but I'm starting to think that applies just as much to me. Yumiko, eat that one too. Yeah, just allow my uncertainty to make Yumiko uneasy as well. For the moment, I'm gonna try and keep the pensive reveries to a minimum. Boop, boop, boop. It was like a half and half chance for the soundtrack to start playing, or the tense soundtrack to start playing.
But now there would be some mundanity. Some.
Yeah, probably the tensity of him pushing his something into her something.
Please, not in this version.
The forecast called for rain, but instead we're greeted with a clear, beautiful morning. Not that the weather outside has too much effect on our current lifestyle, especially in Yumiko's case. Are these all the ones you've finished already? A gesture at the size of a pile of hardcover books sitting at Yumiko's bedside.
もう読んでしまった後だから、風見くんが読まないのだったら返却しても構わないわ。
Yeah, alright.
何か気になることでもあったかしら?
No, I was just trying to remember when they're due back at the library.
そう?
Yumiko's currently a fugitive of sorts. Naturally, that restricts her freedom of movement. She leaves the apartment mostly at night when few pedestrians are around, and only when I've given her the all clear. The vast majority of her time is spent indoors. Of course, she'd go crazy just sitting around in here all the day long, so I take periodic trips to the library to borrow her large quantities of books. Are these any good?
風見くんのチョイスがいいのかしらね。興味深く読んでいるものばかりだし、退屈に感じることはないわ。
Doesn't sound like Yumiko's saying that just for my sake. Apparently probably her honest thoughts. That said, spending all this time alone must be a little rough emotionally. Yumiko was on her own more often than not, even when we were in the dorm. But she had a cell phone, easy access to the internet, and above all else, boisterous friends who kept things lively. By comparison, she's only got one antisocial man for company in this cramped apartment, and he's not even around for most of the day. There aren't many chances for us to do much of anything together. I'll start thinking about the next move pretty soon. Can't keep up this lifestyle forever. Decisive solution is going to be necessary. Not that I really know what that would look like yet. I suppose there's no choice but to cautiously observe the Skaki family's movements and piece together a strategy. Cell phone in my breast pocket buzzes quietly only once. Ever since the kidnapping, it hasn't been doing much of that. There aren't many people who know the number. Most of them are back at the Beyond Academy dorm, and I told them in no certain terms not to call except in an outright emergency. In these circumstances, there's only one possible reason my phone would ring. Figure is glancing at the screen and not to myself and get to my feet.
出かける?
Yumiko doesn't know who it's from or even that I received a message. Probably a bit disconcerting to see me get up so suddenly for no apparent reason. Yeah, just for a while.
そう.
Even so, at times like these, Yumiko never asks where I'm going or why. I guess that means she trusts me, and there's still a clear shadow of unease on her face. I'll be back in an hour or so. Lightly patting her on the head, I try to offer a little reassurance. She must understand rationally that I'll be back soon enough, but it's only natural to feel a little unsettled when your only connection to the outside world vanishes. I casually descend the apartment stairs and then glance around the area as I head to an alley. After two quick left turns, I clamber over to a rusted old gas meter and make my way down a shady lane to a dead end. This is a place I scouted out before, and it's a blind spot from pretty much any angle with very little risk of being overheard. Lean against the far wall and take one last careful look around, then finally take out my phone.
どう? そちらは何か変わったことはない?
JB's voice hasn't changed much since our escape. Same business-like tone as always. There's an oddly upbeat song playing in the background though. Seems like she's got her mini component stereo on. We're not exactly thriving, but at least we have our health.
相変わらずおじいちゃんみたいな言葉を使うのね。バイト先で言われない？年相応の喋り方しろって。
When did each guy start investing in mind reading and research?
研究しなくてもわかるわよ。ひとまず冗談が言える程度には元気なようね。逃亡者の割にはだけど。
JB intersperses her retorts with heavy, exasperated sighs. This incident has, of course, been an enormous nuisance for her as my boss. The case officer bears ultimate responsibility for their agent's actions. She's temporarily demoted until the matter is resolved, and they went as far as to set up an internal investigation to determine if she was conspiring with me. In the end, they decided to act alone and clear JB's name. It's the only reason she's able to talk to me like this. Of course, I'm still using my untraceable phone with its encrypted connection for these chats. To be honest, a few hours of groveling at her feet wouldn't really cut it at this point, but there's no point worrying about paying her back until the stuff running up the tab. Yeah, I guess I'm starting to get the hang of this manual labor thing. Anyway, what do I owe the pleasure?
いつも通りよ。風見雄二への説得。いつまでもこんなことを続けていても仕方ないんだから、早く投稿しなさい。それが身のためよ。
A tempting suggestion, but unfortunately I'm otherwise engaged at the moment. Should have made your offer
あら、
earlier.
今でも変更は可能よ。キャンセルの手続きは私がしてあげるわ。
Sorry, but I'm not a big fan of changing horses midstream. Let's drop the subject, shall we?
そういえば、ユージの部屋にあったサボテン。そろそろ虫食いにあってもいい頃合いなんだけど、どうなのかしら。あら、どうしたの？
Nothing. Leave the cactus alone. I'm pretty sure it's insect food.
はい、了解。さっきの件、心変わりするようならいつでも連絡してね。それじゃ。
Why did her audio suddenly get like 10 times worse?
Yeah, what was that about?
She fucking entered a tunnel.
Yeah, driving along in the Ferrari.
JP promptly hangs up on me in typically efficient style. Flip the cell phone shut. No movement in the present, eh? The main meaning of that formulaic conversation lay in the music playing in the background. We have a simple system where the genre of song communicates some basic information. Today it was a bossa nova Hawaiian beat arrangement, meaning that you guys' search is continuing with no apparent progress. No imminent threats, but we can't let her guard down. Now that her name's been cleared, she's probably no longer in surveillance, but JB's a straight-laced military type with a powerful respect for authority. She's not capable of casually leaking me detailed information. So instead she gives me small hints using this sort of indirect method. I really am due for one hell of a marathon groveling session when this is all over. Seriously though, JB, what kind of question was that? A casual query about my cactus at the end there took me by surprise. I've never owned such a plant in my life. There's a clear reference to the prickly individual currently sharing my room. And as for worm-eaten, that should probably go without saying. Well, I guess it wouldn't be too strange to interpret it that way. Whatever the circumstances may be, I am a man and Yumiko's a woman. We ran away hand in hand. We're living together. It's not hard to see why someone might imagine something along those lines. For a woman of JB's age and personality, it probably seems like the natural assumption to make. Still, the fact of the matter is nothing's happened between us. It's questionable whether Yumiko's interested in being eaten by anyone. And more fundamentally, I don't have a clear sense of how she feels about me. At the very least, I think she trusts me. Next to JB's and Azari prying, I've got a new question weighing here slightly on my mind. The room's silent, except for the regular clacking of her chopsticks. Yumiko's never been the type to chatter on and on while she eats. In fact, she seems to make an effort to be as quiet as possible at the table. Probably something to do with that good breeding of hers. I tend to not talk much during meals myself, but today my silence is deliberate. In other words, instead of trying to make conversation, I'm focusing my thoughts on a matter from this afternoon. What exactly does Yumiko think of me? It's like something a middle schooler would be worrying about. That said, considering our very intimate living circumstances, the presence or absence of romantic feelings is a serious matter. If I jump to a mistaken conclusion, I could end up making Yumiko deeply uncomfortable in the one refuge he has left. I need to proceed very carefully. So, I guess couldn't hurt to ask. There's something I've been wondering about that seems tangibly related to the question at hand. Seems like a good place to begin. Yumiko.
何かしら、風見くん。
Why are you still using my last name?
Yumiko's chopsticks stopped dead midair, her pupils shrinking suddenly inside her wide-open eyes.
Not a complicated question, right? Just wondering why you've never called me Yuji. I'm consistently using the intimate first name with Yumiko, and she's still going with Kazami-kun. Is that implicit signal to not try and get any closer? Does it have some other meaning? Knowing that might give me an answer to the more sensitive question I've been pondering.
Unfortunately, Yumiko appears to have frozen solid. For a good 5 seconds, she just stares at me. Finally, as if remembering to move, she begins to flop her mouth slightly open and closed like a goldfish.
いや、それは、
Words that finally emerge from her mouth are far from the conclusive reply I was hoping for.
なんというか、まだというか、その、
Staring down at her omelet as she pokes at it with her chopsticks, she mumbles vague non-answers.
でも、どうしてあなたが急にそんなことを聞いたの？
Yumiko abruptly pivots to a question of her own in an attempt to regain control of the conversation. Being honest with her at this point would probably be a mistake. No reason in particular, just a little curious. What's wrong? Were you expecting something else?
いいえ、別にそうではないわ。あなたはいつもそうよね。
Jesus Christ. Yumiko's slightly flushed face pulls back to its original distance, her expression changing to one of restrained anger. The omelette she was fiddling with has been thoroughly dissected into a few miserable yellow chunks. In the end, I didn't even get an answer to my question. That reaction was just too ambiguous! What, do Ichigai agents get a lobotomy?
What?
What, do Ichigai agents get a fucking lobotomy for the job? From one angle, it looks like Yumiko is actively hiding romantic feelings from me, but you could also interpret it as an attempt to deflect my interest. To be perfectly honest, I'm not the most perceptive man alive when it comes to these matters. Analyzing Yumiko's feelings based off that conversation is far beyond my capabilities. Quietly slurping down my miso soup and glanced over at the young woman in question. She still got an irritable expression on her face. So I'm going to understand the thought process, but if she's displeased with me for trying to upset the status quo, I guess she isn't interested for the moment. At night, even after turning out the lights and slipping under my blanket, I couldn't manage to fall asleep. Yumiko was sleeping at my side as always, but as I watch, her regular peaceful breathing begins to change slightly. Every once in a while, Yumiko grimaces and moans softly in her sleep. Might be some sort of nightmare. Sometimes it sounds like she's trying to speak, although the words aren't intelligible. Don't worry, Yumiko. Gently touch her forehead, then stroke my hand up through her hair. Her expression seems to soften a little. May the words brought her some relief. My own feelings had been an open question to me for some time. But as I look down at Yumiko's face, I can feel something like an answer emerge. The girl's definitely special to me. A vague desire to keep her safe has grown into some personal and affectionate. That doesn't mean I'm gonna push her to return our feelings. Answering them or ignoring them is just one of the many freedoms Yumiko's finally managed to gain. JB's malicious provocation nearly drove me astray, but originally I haven't even considered the possibility of making a move. So who knows what might happen down the road. If the two of us stay together, I'll probably get an answer to these feelings eventually. I want to put an end to this fugitive lifestyle as soon as possible, but there's no need for us to rush when it comes to figuring out our relationship. We trust each other. That should be enough for now. But along thereafter, events took an abrupt and somewhat unexpected turn. Human beings don't act on the basis of reason alone. Soon I would gain a new appreciation for the undeniable fact. Oh no, he's gonna wake up to her fucking... Yep, he's waking up to her doing the business.
All of a sudden,
to her petting the cat.
you're a horrible person.
I can tell you what happens in this particular occasion.
Yeah, go ahead.
She plays with his dick.
Baseline.
So worse than he just wakes up and she is doing herself. No, he wakes up and she is working working the fucking monument.
What, without permission?
Well, you can always read on if you're so inclined.
Desires are a natural part of life. Putting aside the basic cravings for food, sleep, and excretion that help us help keep us alive. There's a whole range of secondary urges that are at least possible to endure. Sexual desire is often called the strongest among these. As a fairly typical example of the male gender, I've got a fair amount of lust to go around myself. My previous employer actually went out of their way to provide us ways to scratch this particular itch. However, when it comes to the female sex drive, my knowledge is somewhat spotty. It's long been said that men and women experience the sexual urges to begin with puberty in very different ways, and I've interacted with a number of females who seem, at glance, completely lacking in such desires. Skak Yumiko would be one such case in point. We've been living in one room for months now, spreading our bedding out only a few feet apart from each other, but nonetheless she's given every indication of viewing me as part of the furniture rather than a member of the opposite sex. It had been a long day on the job. After dinner I went to bed a little earlier than usual. Yumiko didn't have anything in particular to do either, so she climbed in her futon at the same time and soon fell asleep, quietly asleep. Can't fall asleep tonight for some reason. Though Yumiko was already breathing quietly a few feet away, it's proving very difficult to nod off myself. After a while, I close my eyes and just pretend to sleep. There wasn't really any thought behind that. It's pretty common for me to have trouble sleeping, and sometimes this helps. No reason to disturb Yumiko by tossing and turning around either. But the young woman in question abruptly sits up, pulls back her blanket, and walks quickly off towards the bathroom. Yumiko quickly returns to the bedroom only a minute or so later. I lie quietly, wide awake, waiting for the sound of her slipping back into her futon. Which doesn't seem to be happening. What's this? For some reason, Yumiko doesn't seem too eager to get back in bed. I open one eye just crack. She's standing expressionlessly in between our futons, staring fixedly down at me. After muttering a question to no one in particular, Yumiko quietly lowers herself to the ground next to me, her legs splayed out to one side. What's this girl thinking? I decide to keep breathing softly, allowing her to think I'm unconscious. Hypothetically, if she viewed me as an enemy or bore some grudge, this could be interpreted as the preliminary stage of an assassination attempt. I'm confident that's not the case right now. Yumiko definitely trusts me. That said, we're talking about a woman who tried to slap me in the face the first day we met and spent a good amount of time attempting to stab me. That's in the past now, but she's definitely prone to expressing herself in violent ways. Just to be on the safe side, I focus my attention on Yumiko without opening my eyes and wait alertly for her next movement. However, what comes next takes me completely by surprise.
Fortunately, this being the all ages version, we get a nice different CG.
Probably a kiss. Yumiko swallows audibly, holds her breath. And something supple touches my lips. Boom, I thought it might be her finger, but there's no way it would feel quite this soft. The instant I feel her breath on my nose, I realize that she is pressing her lips against mine. Sweet, distinctive scent tickles the inside of my nose. What? But, seriously? Crap. Unfortunately, I can't keep my lips from twitching a little. Yumiko instantly jerks back. Yumiko stares down at me in an expression of absolute shock. I don't know what she was thinking, but if she's frightened enough to cut things off here, that's fine by me. Hopefully, I'll be able to fall asleep soon. What, again? Once again, Yumiko presses her mouth against mine, and this time she's a lot bolder about it. She's thinking! Considering how things have been up till now, it is just incomprehensible. I mean, if this were, say, Amane. Look at you sleeping all peacefully. Brace yourselves. Bixie's gonna make sure you have some real nice dreams. Would probably be the thought process, but right now we're talking about Yumiko. It's hard to imagine she's got that sort of sadistic streak. So why is she doing this? Maybe she's just curious. After months of living together intimately with a member of the opposite sex, Yumiko developed an interest in sex. That subject's too awkward to discuss, so she decides to try some furtive exploration. That's a fairly reasonable explanation. In fact, I almost hope it's true. Considering how badly Yumiko's unhappy past had weighed her down, seeing her act in such a human way could be something to celebrate. That'd be a sign she's starting to break out of Dad's offensive shell. Even as I'm pondering these matters, the girl continues to mash her mouth against mine in an increasingly ardent fashion. I've got no choice but to call things to a halt somehow. Yumiko presumably believes I'm asleep and oblivious, but keeping up that charade at this point might give her the wrong idea. Normally speaking, anyone except the deepest of deep sleepers is going to wake up when someone kisses them this intensely. I feel bad about interrupting, but for her sake and mine, the girl needs to learn that she's playing with fire. In order to defend my dignity, educate Yumiko, and prevent any unfortunate physical reactions, I reluctantly take action. Cut it out. Turning my face away from Yumiko, I forcibly tear her lips apart. Flinching with shock, Yumiko jumps away from me. Her eyes open to perfect circles as if it finally dawns on her that she's taken things too far. Her mouth's trembling uncontrollably. It's a pretty pitiful spectacle. She looks down at me with an characteristic expression of absolute cowed terror, waiting to see how I'll respond to discovering her misdeed. Cut it out, Yulia.
Yep, and this is exactly the same response.
He responds like this to her, like sucking his dick in his sleep?
You know, she wasn't sucking him off, she was just toying with him, and I think toying with herself, as I recall. But this
that still gives away something pretty big about fucking Yulia.
Yeah.
Fucking JB is gonna be labeled in her mind.
Suddenly, JB starts sneezing for some reason. Is somebody talking some sort of libel? It ain't libel if it's true, JB.
Losing every ounce of acting ability, obsessed continued to mumble in a sleep-addled voice. Repeat the name clearly to make sure Yumiko catches it. And then I very obviously fall back asleep or pretend to. That was a pretty crappy performance by any standards, but...
バレなかった。そうよね。明らかに私だと思ってなかったみたいだし。
At the moment, it's much more convenient for Yumiko to believe that I was talking in my sleep, so she easily accepts the charade. You can hear her let out a short sigh of what sounds like profound relief. It's obvious how shaken up she was by the experience. I can't help feeling a little guilty. Still, I had no idea Yumiko was interested in this sort of thing. Once again, I reflect on her sudden lapse of judgment. Her previous circumstances were normal enough that it wasn't always obvious, but Yumiko has desires like anyone else. Guess it might be time to think about her needs as well. I think this warrants a slight change in the status quo. Tomorrow I'll find the right moment to bring up the matter openly. No more direct nosing around. It's a rather, an extremely dangerous gamble, but I also stand to gain a clear answer to that unresolved question from a few days ago. Yumiko lets out a sigh of flow on me that buries back under the covers of her bed. Sorry, Yumiko, but while I'm at it, sorry, Yulia. With a few words of apology to my roommate and the long-suffering superior I just slandered unjustly, I return once again to my feigned slave. The next morning. I wake up as if nothing happened and prepare breakfast for myself and Yumiko. I'm off from work today, so there's no real need to get up at the crack of dawn, but I decided it would be best to create an opportunity for us to talk as quickly as possible.
Ohayo.
Aye. No doubt thanks to her emotionally draining night, Yumiko seems a little languid this morning. She toddles off drowsily towards the washroom, proceeds to splash water on her face for a while. Seems perfectly at ease, with a hint of tension in the air. In other words, she's convinced herself I'm unaware of the incident last night. Awfully carefree, aren't we?
いただきます。
That's it. As always, Yumiko chews the salt-grilled salmon with small, quiet movements of her mouth. Judging from her expression, she's completely off guard. Not that she has any reason to expect what's coming. Should I really say it? I'm still more than a little hesitant. When a man and woman live together without a clearly defined relationship, it's not surprising that tensions of this nature might arise. It'd be short-sighted to pretend last night never happened. To clear the air, Yumiko's probably feeling some subtle awkwardness and guilt herself. Besides, the last thing I need is for this to turn to some overblown drama. Alright, I think this calls for a very natural, casual approach. Choose my words carefully and aiming to keep this light breakfast table chat. So you want some dick?
Well, funnily enough, the line actually goes after this.
Hey, Yumiko.
何?
As Yumiko casually sips her miso soup, I ask my question in the most nonchalant tone of voice I can muster. You kissed me in my sleep last night, didn't you?
Or in the original, you touched my dick last night, didn't you?
and the noise she made was as if she didn't just touch it. The noise sounds more like she choked on it. I'm terrible.
Bastard.
She promptly chokes on her soup and begins coughing violently. I was thinking this might go smooth if I brought it up casually during a meal, but it seems that didn't work out so well. Yumiko flat out denies the truth in a desperate attempt to retroactively undo her folly. This isn't good. She seems to be getting somewhat emotional. But since I've broached the subject, I can't allow her to squirm out of the discussion. Seeing my nerves, I push bluntly forward. Sorry, but I was awake the whole time. A little after 11 last night, wasn't it? Lasted about 10 or 15 minutes after you came back from the bathroom. Yumiko quickly falters under my skeptical gaze. In a deeply mortified voice, she finally owns up to her misdeed. Bleeding flustered, she begins babbling incoherently. I'm tempted to ask her if her conception of CPR is limited to repeatedly kissing someone, but it's probably the time to be mocking the girl. Stare Yumiko straight in the eyes, then gravely lower my head in apology. My apologies for not realizing sooner. Yumiko, some excuse, but I genuinely had no idea you were so sexually frustrated. I bought into the stereotypes about women having lower libidos, convinced myself Amine was just an exception to the rule. Waving her arms about to signal a halt, Yumiko interrupts in an agitated tone of voice. Like, at this point, the only solution is actually confessing, otherwise he's just gonna think that she's a fucking pervert.
Fail.
あなたひょっとして性欲に負けて私がああいうことをしたと思ってるの?
Well, from an objective point of view, I think it's the most plausible explanation. When someone who hasn't expressed any clear feelings for you suddenly makes that aggressive a move, I'm not sure what other conclusions there is to draw. As I'm reviewing my reasoning, Yumiko's expression grows increasingly sour.
やっぱり全然気づいてなかったのね。
With a heavy sigh, she moves her shoulders up and down in an exaggerated shrug. In the next moment, Yumiko's body begins to tremble with some that seems suspiciously akin to rage. Follow-up question. Was I just incredibly rude to you by any chance?
ええ、そうよ。もう持っていないけど、久しぶりにあれを出したいと思ったぐらいにね。
Kinda think for it, we left that box cutter of hers behind when we ran away. Since Yumiko remembered that thing, it's clear that she is abnormally furious. And it's equally obvious that her anger's coming from. I just drove her straight into a corner. I stepped towards Yumiko and wrapped my arms around her without a word. Sorry, my bad, seriously. As I embrace her and apologize, she finally begins to settle down a little. Didn't bring this up because I wanted to mock you for having held the interest in opposite sex, Yumiko. I wasn't sure if you had feelings for me, so I honestly didn't know what to do until now. Yeah, I finally got my answer. Yumiko's been hiding romantic feelings from me. I just wasn't observant enough to see them. My well-intentioned watch and wait policy ended up driving her to this humiliating moment. I've disgraced myself as a man. Since I finally understand, there's no reason for me to keep hesitating. Pulling slightly away from Yumiko's body, I stare straight into her face. I suddenly just like, let's go. Thank God futon's still out. What? Fucking smash cut to her lying in bed next to him, both of them naked. That was nice. What the fuck just happened? Yumiko, I love you. I want to make you happy. I also want to sleep with you. Sound like a plan? Yumiko closes her eyes and lets her shoulders slump limply downward. She heaves a long, long sigh, her muslin of a balloon slowly deflating. Ow. And proceeds to slap me lightly on the cheek. She's not crying or scowling, but there's a distinctly disgruntled expression on her face.
いきなり失礼なことを言い出したかと思ったら 一転して今度は好きだ、抱きたいだなんて。無茶すぎるって自分でも思わないの？
Good question.
My apologies.
本当にずるいのね。私が動くまでいつだってずっと待ってるばかりなんだから。
I mean, to be fair, in this situation is not exactly the situation to call out your love for each other. Because if that is not actually what's going on, congratulations, you are now two fugitives forced to live in the same fucking house that are now in the awkward situation of one rejected the other. No one wants that, I'm pretty sure. My sincerest apologies. The last time the exasperated smile spreads across Yumiko's face.
私はもうあなたしかいないの。
She reaches out once more, this time to offer me her hand. I take it and gently pull her body forward to lean against mine.
いいわよ。どうしたらいいのかわからないけど、風見くんになら。
Flesh will be bruised.
Right. Feel the weight once again. Compared to when she's standing normally holding Yumiko's slender body, my arms like this makes her feel extremely small. Inside that body, she's carrying all the loneliness of her past and uncertainty of her present. The more I think about it, the more absurdly heavy she feels. I'm ready for this. I wouldn't have been living with her in the first place if it wasn't. Still, I'm crossing a very serious line here, all the more so, given her situation. Okay then, relax and leave everything to me. Yumiko answers my words with a small nod. Her voice conveys simple, absolute trust. That too adds to the weight of on my shoulders. And then they fucked!
That they did.
It's been a few hours since then. Having dressed herself and brushed her hair, Yumiko's currently wandering restlessly around the room, groaning to no one in particular. The girl's usual composure seems to have deserted her entirely. Look, can you try to calm down already? This isn't like you, Yumiko.
いいわよ、もう。私らしくないところなんて他にもたくさん見せたんだし、今さら。何言ってるのよ、私は。
Having dug her own grave and then buried herself in it, Yumiko laments loudly. It's a pretty charming spectacle, but at this rate I don't know if she'll ever get a hold of herself. Alright, maybe this will help you settle down a little. Pulling Yumiko into my arms and brush her hair back and press my lips against hers. Her hair looks purple, so to me she really looks like Sakura from Fate.
Yeah.
But do I have to post a picture? Do you know what she looks like?
No, I know what she looks like.
Okay, good.
Still, nice TG at least.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Very nice. When I release my hold on her face, the girl blinks up at me for a moment, and abruptly grows bashful. Blushing from ear to ear, Yumiko tries to hide her face behind her one hand. I'm not exactly the world's most foremost connoisseur of cuteness, but as transformation is just too extreme, the sugar rush leaves me a little dizzy.
本当にあなたと
Yumiko mumbles the words to herself as if she still isn't quite convinced they're true. No, right? Pretty unbelievable considering where we started out. At first, that communication was limited to slaps to the face and slashes with a blade. And boy, no, we've ended up here. Yes, you could just shrug your shoulders and call it fate. Chance coincidence instead play a large part. Even so, I can't help feeling this all happened for a reason. Yumiko.
何、風見くん。
Hug Yumiko again, much more tighter than before, and stroke one hand slowly down her long hair. Let me say it again. I'll keep you safe no matter what. That's a promise.
風見くん。
I'll be where you are, Yumiko. I won't leave you alone. Cocky Yumiko was always on her own, always isolated. Getting something new after all that time alone was bewildering, and the fog cleared and she realized what she wanted. It almost frightened her. She didn't know what to do. That's why I need to make this crystal clear. I'm right here, not just to protect you, but to be with you. Have anything to say to that? A slight apologetic expression flits across Yumiko's face. But as she looks up at me, it fades into a small smile.
ありがとう。
That's what I was hoping for. There's no need for apologies anymore. The only thing Yumiko and I need to give each other now is gratitude. Alright then, now that we have that settled, let's fix that Kazumiko no use immediately. You heard me. That'd be pretty damn weird to keep calling me by my last name at this point, don't you think?
そんな急に言われても心の準備が。
Don't tell me there's another moment of like she doesn't call him by his first name until she like it slips out during the sex scene.
It might be. The Eagle will probably know.
Yeah, I forget.
Way too many cases of that in visual novels.
Yeah.
And how long is that gonna take?
それは
Yumiko looks up at me with a hint of reproach in her eyes, but after a moment she breathes in deeply as if to seal herself.
わかったわ。今から帰るから。
Okay, then let's hear it. Once again, the girl takes a deep breath. This time she begins mumbling softly to herself like a nervous middle school student preparing to recite pi from memory. And then, in a barely audible murmur, the instant the words squeak out of Yumiko's mouth, her face appears to burst into flame.
呼び慣れていないからやっぱり恥ずかしいわよ。
This contrast is really something. I think I'm embarrassed by proxy. In any case, all my points of concern regarding our relationship have now been decisively resolved. We're still fugitives with an uncertain future, but somehow I think I've gained a little peace of mind. What's wrong? All of a sudden, Yumiko seems to remember something. Her expression grows oddly serious.
あなた昨日の夜ずっと起きてたって言ってたわよね。
And that's right. What, is there something else? I was just gonna ask about mentioning fucking Yulia. Before I can even finish the sentence, Yumiko's thin fingers dig into my arm in a vicious pinch. Ow!
ハルデラさんと昔何があったのか聞かせてもらえるかしら。
Say what?
そうでないとあんなことはとっさには言えないはずよ。
Yumiko's unexpected night raid helped us understand each other's feelings. It was a truly unfortunate event in that respect. But from that day on, I found myself sitting on my heels in penance every afternoon and during interrogations into my previous romantic career. She's gonna learn that he fucked as a child.
以上が各更新上探偵事務所よりの報告となります。調査の範囲を関東一円から東海、近畿地方にまで広げていますが、依然として手がかりになるような報告はありません。現在、さらに手を尽くすように各所連絡は取っております。他に何かありますでしょうか？
首にしろ。
は？
何ヶ月もかけて手がかり一つつかめないような役立たずなどいらん。首だ。いくら金をかけても構わんから、今度はちゃんとあの二人を見つけられるような腕利きに頼め。わかったな。
はい。失礼します。
もう半年か。聞くまでもないが、そちらの調査で何か進展はあったのかね？
いいえ、申し訳ありません。手がかりは何も。
自分たちの飼い犬にもかかわらず情けないことだ。こうもあっさりと逃げられては、裏であなた方が手を引いているのかと疑いたくもなる。
社長、それについてはもう。
信用できる内部調査の結果、ハルデラさんへの疑いはなくなったそうだからな。こちらとしては。他に何かあるかね？
すでに風見雄二、由美子さんの両名とも 所持していた携帯電話は破棄されています。今後仮に向こうから連絡を取ろうとした場合、公衆電話からかけることが考えられます。着信があった場合は。
Hey yo. Bud's fucking gone again. Bud's back again.
Huzzah.
You okay there, Bud?
Yeah. What happened?
Okay.
大阪支社からか。失礼する。今取り込み中だ。後で。なんだと？ダメでしたで済む問題か。先方の自宅の前で土下座して粘れ。意地でも確約を得てこい。あのタヌキをこちらに引き込んでおかなければ今の体制ごと崩されるぞ。頭と金は使え。何のために財布を渡していると思っている。もっと動け。
着信にはご注意ください。では私はこれで失礼します。
何か言いたそうだな。
いえ、何も。
どうも最近総会を前にして私の周りに不穏な動きがあってね。裏で何か動いても無駄だよ。こちらだってバカじゃない。変な動きをすればすぐにわかる。
何のことでしょうか。
白を切るつもりならそれでいい。ただあまり目立つようだとこちらからも動くということだけは覚えておいた方がいい。
失礼します。
誰にも奪われるわけにはいかないのだよ。誰にもな。
I'm not sure how many times I need to say this before you get the message. I'm not playing to get myself up.
そう、残念ね。
Once again, JB and I engage in our regularly scheduled, rigid, formulaic conversation. She has classical playing in the background today. The volume seems just slightly louder than usual. There's no immediate danger approaching, but a good deal of caution is warranted. Comparatively calm state of affairs. Of course, it's never wise to feel completely at ease when you're on the run. But the lack of current problems does soften the psychological pressure a bit.
最近はどうなの？ちゃんと食事はしているの？生活は荒れていない？
Yeah, no problems worth mentioning. Sounds like a conversation between a college student in a big city and his anxious helicopter mom. Again, I guess I'm something of a pseudo-son to JB, so there's nothing inherently strange about her worrying about me. It's just more than a little comical under the circumstances. Of course, it's also a necessary part of a carefully choreographed give and take of information, but still. That reminds me, I've got something to report, JB.
何かしら?
Bought another cactus from a room over here, but a worm got at it right away. Got a little worried there for a while. Seems like they're actually capable of coexisting now. Something wrong?
そう、それは良かったわね。自然なことだと思うわ。
Yeah. I borrow JB's metaphor to inform her of recent developments. Not really this sort of thing I need to go out of my way to report, but there's no reason I did either. Even now, the cactus in question is no doubt waiting eagerly for the return of its worm.
ユージ、切る前に一つだけいいかしら。
Yeah, what?
共存はいいことだけど、トゲには気をつけることね。サボテンに刺す意思はなくても、もともといびつなものだということを忘れないで。
That's some way to talk about the poor plant.
経緯を知っているからこそよ。まさか忘れていないとは思うけど、あなたは逃亡者なんだから、それを夢忘れないように。それじゃ。
I'm aware, thanks. Two of us connected in the midst of a strained and unstable situation. It's going to be very difficult to maintain this peaceful balance for much longer. But for the moment, for Yumiko's sake and mine, I don't want you to be too conscious of that. Change is constant and ever present. Time moves us forward whether we like it or not. We bump into other people and unpredictable external factors that knock us off course. Our thoughts, our environments, our places in the world, even our ideologies, everything shifts. And even if a world that's defined by change, human relationships are about as astonishing and volatile as it gets. Go from life to death, family to strangers, strangers to family. We meet and part, make allies and enemies, crown winners and mark losers. Some gain independence, while others sink into servitude. Some submit and some rebel.
Goodwill can change to hatred in the blink of an eye, and hatred to goodwill. Sometimes people fight their best friends to the death in the struggle for power. Sometimes people sell their family for trivial sums of money. Sometimes a subordinate who'd been treated like a dog launches a coup d'etat. Sometimes a dictator finds himself groveling like a worm before his old throne. I've seen it all. In the scope of things, the case of Kazumi Yuji and Sakaki Yumiko isn't anything out of the ordinary, but the last few months have certainly been full of changes. We started off as strangers, then mortal enemies, worried doormates, daughter of a client and a representative of a certain company, a guard and his principal, co-conspirators and fugitives, and now a man and a woman. It was a pretty tangled road that brought us here. As for where that'll lead us next, who the hell knows? Certainly not two people traveling it together. How much longer do you think we got in this, Eagle?
If we go at the pace we're doing now, we could do it in one more session.
You know what, let's do like one more scene and then we end it for the day, then.
Yeah, let's do that.
As I've grown more comfortable in my job, free time has actually gotten harder to come by. I've been attempting to do my work quietly and keep my head down, but it seems that a rare trait amongst youngsters these days earning me unintended recognition from my superiors, and ended up being promoted to the supervisor of a small work team with 5 to 6 men. Normally this would be something worth celebrating, but right now the goal does not stand out, even in good ways. You may have to consider moving to a different location if I start getting ahead in life despite myself. A few days off are often spent on chores and housework. It's mainly cleaning and washing, stockpiling basic preservable food, and investigating the area as a precaution for the worst case scenario. Lots of housewife-style labor, except for the last one. Yumiko helps out as well, of course, but the girl had a pretty sheltered upbringing. Getting the issue isn't naturally dexterous either. Doing pretty simple jobs tend to give her some trouble. In any case, we began our work early in the morning of the day, according to our routine, and it's roughly 2 in the afternoon by the time we are finished. Yumiko?
Nani?
Is that book really that interesting? Having wrapped up my work for the day, I inquire about the novel Yumiko's been reading intently.
あなたこそ熱心に地図なんて見てるじゃないの。
I think the reason for that should be pretty obvious.
そうね。
I'm going over our potential escape routes in case of emergency. Not to say how practically useful repeatedly reviewing this will prove, but it's going to be better than doing nothing at all. Currently, we've nestled ourselves down in the home turf of the West Tsutomu Railway Company, a bitter enemy of the East Beach Group since the pre-war era. It's safe to say Sakaki Michiaki won't be openly looking for cooperation resolving his family squabble. He's not eager to show corporate rivals any sign of weakness. East Beach will tread lightly around here. This low-lying area of eastern Tokyo is particularly dense and tangled. We're keeping a very low profile. No private detectives won't be able to track us down that easily. But since this location's ideal, we might stand out as a possibility to a competent investigator. Tracing a number of lines along our escape routes, I picture the movements of enemies who haven't yet materialized.
私は時間つぶしの手慰みみたいなものよ。特に面白いとも思えなかったわ。
That's so. Thought I saw you smiling a little though.
あまりにミステリーがつまらなかったから、ついね。出てきた瞬間に犯人が分かったのよ。
That's impressive. I'm not under the illusion that I completely understand Yumiko just because we are in a relationship now, but I didn't think her instincts were that good.
あなたも読む？
You just said it was ridiculous, didn't you? Or was the book more suitable for general audiences?
あなたが私と一般を区別した理由はわからないけど、内容は秀逸よ。ただ、私がお金を出してこの本そのものを買ってきてたなら、壁に投げつけているけど。
What are you talking about? Instead of a response, she silently pushes the open book out in front of my face.
登場したある人物の名前に、ご丁寧に棒線で犯人と注釈が書き込んであったのよ。
Yes, that's how it goes with library books sometimes. Still, what a nasty little prank to Paul. Sorry about that.
別にあなたが謝ることではないでしょ。
Should have flipped through it first, but the book had a pretty good reputation, so I thought it'd be alright. I'll make the same mistake again, promise. Reading's virtually the only entertainment available to Yumiko under our current circumstances. I feel genuinely bad about letting someone ruin it for her like this.
へえ。
What, something to say?
評判なんて気にして借りてきてくれてたのね。
Yeah, for what it's worth. Might as well read some decent if you're gonna read, right?
だったら
Hmm.
もっと他のことに気を使いなさいよ。
Like what?
別に
For the deflected question, Yumiko again returns her focus to the novel. Yumiko,
何
sure you're not enjoying that book?
どうしてよ。
No reason. Well, honestly, it's because she seems to be in a good mood for some reason. That note was actually a prank or a red herring, and you've just hit some clever twist in a plot you never saw coming.
まさか感想の前にあくびが出るわ。その次はため息ね。
Thought you said it wasn't bad.
だって今2週目だもの。
Much point hunting for the foreshadowing then. In that case, what's she enjoying so much? I don't get it at all. While we're talking, mind if I make one small observation?
何よ。
Wasn't sure whether I should mention this, but you're weighing me down, Yumiko, in a physical sense. Yumiko's been using my lap as a reading chair for some time now. I'm not just talking about today either. Ever since our physical relationship began, she's made a habit of unceremoniously plopping herself down on top of me to read her books, not bothering to ask for permission first. And I think that I suppose this would be the only thing that's really changed about our daily routine after we made love. Yumiko wasn't quite satisfied with the explanation I offered regarding my romantic history, so I've been quietly letting her do as she pleases, but this seems like a good opportunity to finally say something.
我慢して。
Alright. With this brief reply, my objection is completely eliminated.
Get the deal with it, sunglasses.
Yeah?
やっぱり迷惑かしら。
It's what a bother.
私がこうしていること。
Only a few moments later, Yumiko's haughty expression gives way to something a great deal more uneasy. Nah, it doesn't really bother me.
だって重いって言ったじゃない。
I was thinking it might be a good opportunity to ask why you're always sitting on me, come to think of it. I guess it actually feels a little pleasant if anything.
本当に
Yeah.
本当に本当
Yeah, really. This childish line of questioning prompts a sudden realization. I thought you'd been laying on the overbearing attitude a little thick lately. Maybe you were just trying to hide your embarrassment. The girl doesn't respond, but her face makes me think I might have hit the bullseye. Then Yumiko's been bluffing. Yumiko's been bluffing all this time, acting confident to cover up her timidity, watching my reaction on the corner of her eye, secretly swinging back and forth between happiness and fear. By the time my thoughts get this far, I'm already petting Yumiko's head. Sorry about that. Determined to give the charming little coward some reassurance, I ignore her abashed expression and repeat the motion.
ユーシ
Oh.
どうかした
Well, that's the first time you've called me that in a while. That day I made one request of Yumiko. She'd become an irreplaceable individual to me, so I asked her to use my name as I use hers. Yumiko hasn't called me Kazumi-kun since then, but I guess the alternative still felt a little awkward. She's mostly dodged the issue by using pronouns. I wasn't really upset or anything, but I have to admit it made me feel a little lonesome at times.
ちゃんと気づいてたんだ。
Was it deliberate?
だってもしあの時の勢いだけで素に戻ったユージが嫌な顔でもしたらどうしていいかわからなかったもの。
You really think I'd do something that cruel?
私といる時でも他の女の話を平気でしたわよね。
My apologies, you're right, I'm a heartless monster. I can't believe I didn't even notice how much all this was bothering her. In retrospect, maybe JB was somewhat justified in referring to me as a menace to all womankind.
あれから一度も抱いてくれないし。
Yeah, I think JB hit the nail on the head there.
Well, that was just... It's still a beginner, so I was trying not to be too pushy.
キスさえしないの
Because I wouldn't be able to stop myself.
いいのに。
What?
勝手に気を使わないでよ。そういう面倒なのは私一人だけでいいわ。
She might as well fucking pull out a megaphone right in his face and scream, fuck me. I almost just drank from the fucking wine bottle instead of pouring myself a glass because I was distracted.
Well, at this late hour, I suppose you would lose all class.
It is like almost 1 a.m. for me.
Yeah, midnight. Yeah.
Just a little bit late.
その通りよ。
She
lets the words fly carelessly. Cool-headed Yumiko used to know is still there, but with the sense of anxiety and flashes of newfound boldness in the mix, somehow or another, she's turning into an undeniably cute young lady. So in other words, you're up for it?
ダメ。触らないで。絶対に許さないわ。
What, no good after all?
夜まで我慢しなさい。まだ昼間よ。
Why do we have to wait until night?
それ以上は私も我慢ならないわ。
I fail to see why that's a problem.
お風呂に入りたいのよ。
Bath, is it? You have to economize on the water bills as well, so we've restricted ourselves to a single bath at night each. Normally I'd just tell her to get in right now, but under the current circumstances, it's a legitimate reason for the delay.
その時の私は納得のできる最高の私でありたいのよ。
Maybe it's because of all the reading she's been doing lately, and because phrases this in an oddly poetic way. Chaotic, yes. Poetic way. Well, it's definitely an in-character sort of thought either way. You're still the same old Yumiko-Route, aren't you?
ええ、そうよ。自己満足よ。悪い？
Nope. Wry smile spreads across my face. Suppose I'll have to respect Yumiko's wishes on this one. Alright then, tonight it is. Once again, we fell silent and returned to our idle reading time. Or such was the plan.
どうしたの？
Not sure what you're talking about.
その地図、そんなに面白い？
Of course not, it's just a map.
そう。少しだけ笑っていたように見えたから。
I see. Suddenly I understand why Yumiko's been in such a good mood all this time. That's got nothing to do with the map. It's a natural side effect of having you next to me.
そう。それは奇遇ね。私もだわ。
Okay, you adorable little fucking gremlins, we get it.
Get a room already.
They all have a room already.
I know. That's
They
what I
are
did.
in the room already.
They are in the room presently. Now be so kind as to use it.
It's not easy to put in words, but right now I feel fulfilled. Every day is happy enough that I half expect things to fall apart catastrophically at any moment, just as JB keeps warning they might. But for now, as long as the situation will remain stable, I want to try and enjoy our time together, for Yumiko's sake as well as mine. She's never had much in the way of ordinary happiness. Surely God won't mind her indulging in a little sweetness now that she finally has the chance. That argument as a shield, I try my best to erase the ever-present trickle of anxiety from my mind. I did say one more scene, and now we're gonna come back to after they fucked, or right before they fuck. Who knows?
This is just happened.
Oh hey, look, it's a bastard.
It's the man with the aneurysm.
To the ends of the earth. Oh yes, something's going on. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this one. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Next time, we take down the equivalent of George Hudson.
Nice.
No.